across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a very good evening to you. This is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you for the next 3 hours. And midnight, of course, it's your opportunity to talk back. And I do want to hear from you about Harry and Meghan and their security. Look, so what, they want to come home. I'm not a fan. I can't be bothered either way with them. Live their lives. That's what they wanted to do. When they left, they made sure that they made us all feel pretty bad. You know, we're a country of racists, apparently. But here they go, coming back to the UK to live as private people, not as royals. I mean, it doesn't distract you from the fact that he is a royal and the children are royals. So I wonder if you think that we do owe them anything, that we owe them this security that they want. Is 5 million a year. I think that sounds a little low, but 5 million a year. David Blunkett said, well, there are 3 levels of security, so maybe the midway level we should pay for. But I'm questioning why we should pay for it. They're not working as royals. They've told us they want a private life. They want to be out of the firm. They don't want anything to do with it. They made a good job at slagging off the royal family. And now they want to come back to the UK for whatever reason that may be. And you know, apart from Harry saying, I can't see a possible future where I would bring my family back to the UK. Well, here it is, less than a year later. And they're going to set up home somewhere in the Cotswolds, not in a royal. They won't be doing any royal work. They won't be doing anything for us. But do we owe Harry and his family security because he couldn't help being born a royal, right? And they will become the focus of some attention. Maybe, I don't know whether the media are going to be that interested after Harry trying to sue the Daily Mail and the press not being very happy with them. I'm not sure what kind of value a photograph of Meghan will hold anymore. I don't know. Are we that interested anymore? I don't know. You tell me. Maybe you are. You're thrilled with them coming back, and you think this is a good opportunity to rebuild relationships, and that we should be paying for Harry as he is a royal. He is still King Charles's son, and those children are King Charles's grandchildren, and they should be protected by this country, by us, by you and me, the taxpayer. Well, you know, there are other royals that don't get any security. Eugenie and the other one, they don't get it. The Phillipses don't get it. There's a lot of people that don't get it. Zara doesn't get it. Her children don't get it. I mean, there's a lot of people that do not get, and they're in the royal family as well. So why Harry and Meghan? Why are we looking to even support their shenanigans? Well, we might only stay 6 months, and then we might try Canada, and then we might try Australia. I don't know. I'm pretty bored of the whole thing with them, and I am anti-paying for their security, because if they're not doing anything for us, why should we do anything for them, really? If they were working royals, absolutely, but they're not. And they're going to be trying to make money in this country. So, anyway, I don't know. What do you think about this? Do you think that I'm being a little bit naive, that they should be protected because of the fact that, you know, Harry couldn't help being born into the royal family, the children couldn't help being born royals. She could, but, you know, the others couldn't, and that they deserve to be protected by their country. I'd feel a little bit better about it had they been taxpayers in this country for the last 6 years, with all those millions, hundreds of millions, 200 million Netflix deal, wasn't it? Didn't pay tax in this country, and now they want the taxpayer to pay for them. So, yeah. That's where I stand, and it might be a little bit naive. I know that we're talking to Graham Wetone a little bit later on in the programme, and he does believe that they should get some protection. So, well, I'll be asking him as to why. Why? Why can't the King pay for it? There must be a mechanism that they can pay. I don't know what it is, but there must be one. So we're going to be talking about that at midnight. Do give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Call was charged at the national rate, but we do, of course, call you back. And you can text the word talk and your message to 87222. So we're going to be talking about that. Vincent Moss joins us as well, former political editor, to go through the papers and the story of the day. We're going to be talking about social media policing. Can it be trusted to police itself, which it doesn't appear to be very good at this moment in time. So we're going to be talking to the lead consultant for an organisation called Clean Up the Internet. As I said, Graham Wetton will be joining us. He's a former Met Police officer. So talk about the different types of security, what they will cost and what he thinks that the Royals should get from us. In the meantime, though, and to kick the programme off, the UK Prime Minister Andy Burnham chose Kyiv for his first official overseas trip, meeting President Volodymyr Zelensky to reaffirm Britain's long-term defence commitment. This is on the day that Ukraine marked its 35th Independence Day. Well, to bolster Kyiv's defence capabilities, Burnham announced that the sharing of a classified technical blueprint for a Scalp cruise missile components, paving the way for domestic long-range missile assembly inside of Ukraine. Well, the move sparked immediate backlash from Moscow, which withdrew its ambassador to the UK, Andrei Kelin, leaving the post vacant as the Kremlin accused London of escalating the conflict through direct military aid. Here to discuss this further is, I'm delighted to say, is Professor Anthony Glees, who's a Security and Intelligence Studies Professor at Buckingham University. Very good to see you as ever, Anthony. I hope you're well.
Yes, I hope you're well too.
Very well indeed, thank you. Let's have a look at this. Andy Burnham, his first official foreign trip to Kyiv. Is that significant?
I think it's very significant, actually. It's a very important trip and taken within just, days, really, of Andy Burnham becoming our Prime Minister. President Zelensky, you've seen so many British Prime Ministers come and go since the awful assault on his country started.
I think it's 5.
2022.
I think Andy Burnham's the 5th.
Yeah, I think he probably is. But there's no doubt that Andy Burnham is having an important visit set out for him, and that they've done a very important deal, which is, as you describe, that we're giving the Ukrainians the blueprint so that they can make Storm Shadow long-range cruise missiles, which will be able to hit deep into Russia, in return for giving us access to the huge database that Ukraine now has of Russian weaponry, Russian tactics, and the sorts of things that Russia would get up to. So that's a really, really important input into our defence industry here in the UK, and it will enable our defence industry here in the UK really to develop the state-of-the-art artificial intelligence powered missiles that could protect Ukraine, but also importantly protect us here, and of course produce jobs here in the UK. So I think it's very significant. And although it is perfectly true that France has also got a share in these Storm Shadow type cruise missiles, and has also said to Ukraine that it's prepared to help Ukraine develop them, what we're doing is very significant, and it's a big move, which is why Putin's thrown this hissy fit and recalled his appalling ambassador. And many of us would say good riddance to him. We can do without him.
Yeah, there wasn't much diplomacy going on there anyway, no. to be fair. And Russia has singled the UK out. There's no question of that. We are public enemy number 1, despite the fact that other countries like Germany, like France, and others have stepped forward and offered support, help and actual weaponry, Spain being the notable a country that is apparently not doing anything to help. But other countries have stepped forward. But Britain is number one enemy.
Well, that's absolutely right. The reason we're number one enemy, I think, is not because of the amount of money we've given, because we haven't actually given a great deal compared to other European nations. We've given about 25 billion pounds to Ukraine since 2022. The European Union has given 220 billion euros. Germany has given 98 billion euros, and America has given $195 billion. So we there with our 25 billion are fairly low down the list. But what we have given them, and we saw it again from what Andy Burnham said in Kiev today, what we have given them is courage and encouragement. We've given them, we've been able to say to the people of Ukraine, the very brave people of Ukraine, we in Britain actually understand better than anybody else in Europe or indeed in America what it means to stand alone and deal with an aggressor. And Burnham, I think, put that very well when he said, my nation kept the flame of European freedom alive in the 20th century. You're holding that flame now for the 21st century. So there's a bond, an important morale-boosting bond between Britain and Ukraine that no other European nation has, and the United States of America also don't have. So we've not given them lots of money, but we've done our best for them, and we're saying we know what they're going through because we went through that in 1940 and really up to 1945. We're in it for the long haul. And I think that's important, and I think it's different too. What does need to be said is that although the Germans, for example, have given Ukraine a lot of money, they haven't given Ukraine the cruise missiles, which is what Storm Shadow essentially is, that the Ukrainians need in order to strike into Russia. Why is that important? It's important because what the Ukrainians do not have, and we're not in a position to give them it because we don't have any either, are Patriot missiles. So you need Patriot missiles to shoot down the ballistic weapons that Moscow is firing at Ukraine. The cruise missiles can take out the places that make the ballistic missiles. The cruise missiles can also further undermine Russia's capacity to wage the war, which is built on its capacity to refine oil and sell it on world markets. So we are doing something significant. The Germans aren't doing it. It's not all that Ukraine needs. What Ukraine needs is protection from Putin's ballistic missiles, aimed increasingly at civilians in Ukraine. This is a horrifying thing. Putin can't win on the battlefield, and he's trying to destroy the morale of the Ukrainian people at home by targeting them. We've all seen those pictures, I think, you know, these little drones coming in and killing individual people.
Well, he's getting increasingly desperate, isn't he?
He's desperate. He's desperate because he's not winning.
There are reports, though, Anthony, that he's recruiting 300,000 soldiers from North Korea, which is the second tranche of North Korean fighters to come over, who were largely incredibly unsuccessful the first time that they came over. But Putin, he's not offended by the idea of cannon fodder, is he?
Well, he's not. I mean, he is pathological. He has this view. I don't think he's a very clever man, and he's not a suicidal man, which is important, and why I think in the end he will be defeated. But he is perfectly prepared to sacrifice over 1 million Russians in this deeply appalling war on Ukraine. And he's also, Putin, a total hypocrite, because he says Britain is now in the front line as far as Russia is concerned because we are assisting Ukraine with our money and our weapons systems as blueprints, completely ignoring the fact that Putin can only fight this war because of the North Korean shock troops that he's getting, even though, as you say, they're not very successful. And above all, the drones and the drone technology that Putin has got from the Ayatollahs in Iran. So, you know, the equivalence here is that we are helping the people in Ukraine who are on the right side. Iran, China are helping the wrong side. And yet Putin says we're the villains and he's going to take it out on us for helping the brave Ukrainians. And as our Prime Minister has rightly said, the one thing we mustn't forget here is who started this war. And so our attitude towards Putin and his Koreans and his Iranians and the help of the Chinese and all the people who are piling in, the dictators, the axis of evil in action, our response is telling Putin to go and boil his head. And a realization that the war that the Ukrainians are fighting is our war, that it is a European war, and that Ukraine's success in resisting Putin makes us safer here in the UK, safeguards our way of life, our liberties, that you and I can talk freely about these things. So it's a very important development. And you know, Boris Johnson started this when he stood up in Parliament and said, Slava Ukraini, and that we would do everything. He hit the right note, and I think Andy Burnham is hitting exactly the same note, maybe playing it somewhat more loudly than it has been in the past.
The problem is that Vladimir Putin, you know, he's in a corner and he's talking himself into a bigger corner with us. In that, we know that you know, the banking system in Russia is about to collapse because they're taking all of their money out in case it becomes a war fund. We know that the people of Russia are beginning to notice 1 million people missing. All of these things are going against him. The one thing that he has is to attack Britain in some way. And of course, there's this cyber warfare and all of that. But many experts now believe that he's preparing for a physical attack, probably at sea, to test what NATO would do. Either that or something in Poland or something in any of the bordering smaller countries to Russia to prove he's the big man.
Well, of course, that is the fear. And unfortunately, you know, this is the downside of everything. Putin reads the newspapers like everybody else, and he knows that we are struggling in this country to defend ourselves, let alone defend Europe. Yes, we have the nuclear deterrent, and that's important that we have it, but nobody thinks nuclear weapons are going to be used in this conflict or used in the future. And yes, we can make drones, but the Russians are making vast numbers. Yes, we can make ballistic missiles, but yes, the Russians are making even more ballistic missiles. So we are very vulnerable, and the ongoing debate as to whether we can afford to defend ourselves, the fact that we're all saying we are insufficiently defended at the moment. I mean, that's what Lord George Robertson said, the former Secretary General of NATO. You know, we are not defended in this country at the moment. That, of course, for an evil person like Putin, that is an opportunity. He knows that by 2035, we will be able to take care of our own defense in this country, and in the European nations of NATO will also be able to take care of their own defense. Now, if you were Putin, what would you do? Would you cause trouble after 2035, or would you start causing trouble now? And again, Petrie, you're right. We're vulnerable not only from Putin starting something in the Baltic using the Kaliningrad enclave as a base to attack perhaps our Baltic friends, Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, or come at us from the unfreezing north. That Arctic route is opening up, and that puts the UK and Norway in prime pole position for any incursion that the Russians might want to make in Europe. So the quicker we get our defense expenditure sorted, the sooner we realize that all the money we spend on our health service and our social services, it will all be as summer snow unless we can properly defend ourselves. Because if we can defend ourselves, then Putin will be deterred. This is about deterrence. It's not about attacking him. It's about deterring him from doing anything stupid against us. But we also shouldn't forget, and this is a problem too, our Prime Minister has made it clear that there are defence industries here in the UK that are now going to benefit from the intelligence that Ukraine has said we're going to have access to. The Russians have already carried out sabotage against our defense industry here in this country. They will be even more determined to carry out acts of sabotage as a result of the agreement that the Prime Minister has reached with Zelensky in Kiev today. And it's very interesting. The companies that we have making this stuff, mostly European. I mean, that's another very important thing. Whether Brexit or not Brexit, everybody accepts. Every European nation is in this together. We've all got to make these weapons together. But we're all vulnerable now from Russian sabotage. So people are going to have to be on the alert. It's not just about the Iranians in this country. It's also now that the Russians have got a clear goal to try to stop us from developing the weapons with the help of Ukrainian inputs that can make us secure the decade to come. Yeah,
absolutely. And they've only got to get through once, haven't they? And we've got to stop them thousands of times. So we've got to be on our mettle. Professor Anthony Glees, always a pleasure. Thank you very much indeed. Security and Intelligence Studies Professor at Buckingham University. Quick break, back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it is Petrie here with you, and coming up at midnight it is your chance to talk back. And now we know that Harry and Meghan are coming back to the UK. Sorry, my microphone is behaving strangely, I'll fix that in the next break. Now that we know they're coming back, for whatever reason they're coming back. They're certainly not coming back for us, right? They're not coming back to, I don't know, to do any work for us or to help us in any way. What their real intentions about coming back are, only they know, right? Only they know. But They certainly want us to pay for them coming back, and they want us to pay for their security details. And whilst I accept that Harry is a royal by birth, it's not his fault. His children are the same, royal by birth, not their fault. They had decided to opt out of royal life. Where they won't be doing any work for us, they won't be doing any, I don't know, opening of supermarkets or leading charities like other royals do. And other royals, by the way, don't get the kind of security that Harry and Meghan want either. You know, the children, they deserve. Look, if they think they need security, they need security. But they're also incredibly rich, and they've got a very rich dad. The king can afford $5 million a year. He could afford to pay for it, and not ask the taxpayer to pay for it. Harry and Meghan, when they made all of that money, and who knows where that is now, as far as I know, did not pay a single penny of British tax on that money because they were living in California at the time, so would have paid American tax. So they haven't paid in to the system personally, having earned all of that money, but they want us, you and I, to pay for their security. Now, they probably need security. They probably should have security. But I don't see why we should pay for it. That's what I'm thinking. Other people have security and we don't pay theirs either. So give me a call. Let me know what you think. Maybe you think I'm just being naive or mean or whatever, anti-royal, which I'm not. I'm not pro or anti, really. I honestly, I'm like, meh about the whole thing. But it just is another burden on the taxpayer to, quite frankly, a couple of really ingrates, aren't they? Their ingratitude to this country has been absolutely breathtaking, and now they want us to cough up. That's how I feel, anyway. But then I am petty. So give me a call, 0344 499 1000, and you can also text the word talk and your message to 87222.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it is Petrie here with you. And just a reminder, coming up we're going to be talking about whether we can trust social media to police itself. That's what it's always told us that it wants to do and is capable of doing, although we've seen very little evidence of that so far. And a reminder too that Vincent Moss will be joining us in the studio to go through the papers for tomorrow. But before all of that, with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle reportedly preparing for an imminent return to live in the UK, debate over their taxpayer-funded security has reached a flashpoint as the Royal and VIP Executive Committee finalises its review ahead of their expected arrival. Public expenditure concerns remain central, with estimates for full 24-hour protection reaching up to £5 million a year. Well, weighing in on the political row, former Home Secretary David Blunkett, or Lord Blunkett, I should say, outlined a middle ground compromise. He suggested granting a reduced detail of 1 or 2 close protection officers, subject to a formal reassessment after 2 years to balance individual safety risks against taxpayer costs. But will Harry and Meghan be satisfied with that? Oh, well, joining me now to discuss this, I'm delighted to say, is Graham Whettone, who is a former Met police officer and author of How to Be a Police Officer. Good to see you again, Graham. Thank you very much for joining me. Breaking this down, there's no question that they're royals. Harry had no choice in being a royal, but he did have a choice about whether he wanted to partake as a royal. He opted not to, moved to America, and is not a British taxpayer, or wasn't a British taxpayer when he was earning hundreds of millions of dollars. He's now coming back and wants the taxpayer to pay for his security. Is that fair?
Evening, Petrie. That's a difficult one. I've got my professional head and how I think it should be dealt with professionally. I've got my personal view as a taxpayer and a British subject, etc. I actually like Lord Blunkett's suggestion. I think they need to find a compromise here. I think you're right to highlight the issues you have about they've left the country, the amount of money they've obviously earned, accumulated over the years.
Hundreds of millions, 200 million from Netflix alone, 50 million from somebody else, millions. Not a penny paid in the UK.
No, it is millions. And there are other high net worth individuals in the UK who pay for their own security/protection teams, etc. when they come over. So from other countries, they come into the UK, they pay for people to provide security for them. So that happens already. They don't have access to police protection and the links with the police forces. But my professional side of it comes in with, if they're going to come over and live in the UK, and they lived in the police force I was working on, I'd want to have some involvement or communication links, engagement with their security detail, because you can't take away his birthright. He is what he is. He's a king's son. He's the heir to the throne's brother. If something were to happen to him or his family, it would reflect not just on policing, but on the country as a whole. So I think there is an element of we have to look at this a bit more sensibly, a bit more pragmatically about this. They need to have some form of security, whether they meet the whole cost, the taxpayer meets some of the costs. But I think there has to be some police involvement, engagement with whatever protection detail they have, because it can't just run independently, I think, as other individuals do in this country. But I think it's because of his social standing.
Now, I'm aware that a member of the public cannot pay for police protection. That is a caveat, isn't it? That you can't. Yeah. Otherwise, we'd have these wealthy footballers being able to pay for police protection. However, in a situation like this, where the King has got a bob or two, Harry and Meghan have got a bob or two, would there not be some way of funding police protection, or would that be crossing a line that you don't think we should cross?
I think you're right. I think you picked it up there. I think that would be crossing a line slightly, because they're then paying for police officers, and you could have other high net worth individuals saying, well, King Charles has paid for it, or Prince Harry has paid for it. Why can't we pay for it as well? Because they're almost then paying as a private individual rather than as a member of the royal family. I think the royal family, some members of the royal family get their protection because they are members of the royal family. That's why the taxpayer picks it up. But they tend to be the ones that are doing public duties, public engagements. So there's almost like a quid pro quo there. They're going to go out and do public facing duties, so they attract some form of protection from whichever police force they're going to. So I think it's a slightly different situation, but I think they need to find a compromise here. There's an element, I think, of almost your opener. I think Rabbit have got this impression of, well, he's earned loads of money, he's left the country, he's gone away, now he wants to come back, he can just pay for it himself. I think you need to look at the risk assessment, the threat assessment to him and his family when he's in the UK. I think there needs to be a compromise found between, sensible discussion, adult type discussion, sit down, look at this sensibly, look at the risk and threat assessment. Does he need or warrant 24-hour, 24/7 protection, or do they only need a protection detail when they're doing public-facing duties? I think there's a compromise that can be found here.
But apparently they're not going to be doing public-facing duties. I mean, even Eugenie, I can never remember the name of the other one, Beatrice and Eugenie. They do work in charities and things, but they no longer get taxpayer-funded security. They did until I think reasonably recently, but they no longer get any help. The Phillipses certainly don't get any publicly funded security, and they are royals, right? They're Anne's children, so Princess Anne's children. So you know, they don't do much in the way of royal duties, I don't think. Although Zara Phillips does turn up to the odd thing, but it's still, there's a precedent set. So why is Harry different? Just because he's closer to the king? I mean,
I think so. Yeah, I think it's just basically because he's closer to the king and closer to the heir to the throne. I think it's just that the family levels, the family tiers. You're right about Beatrice and Eugenie. Their police protection was removed, must be close to about 7-8 years ago.
Yeah, it was about that. Yeah.
But then their former police protection detail then became their private details, paid for by the family, paid for by the parents, is my understanding. So they re-employed their protection team to a certain degree for some events. I think that happens with other members of the royal family as well. I think Harry just sits somewhere slightly differently. And to say he's above those doesn't sound right, but I think just because of his link to the king and the heir to the throne, I think that puts him, and again, that then increases or enhances the risk and threat assessment to him and his family, military background, things he's said and done in the past.
Well, he brought it upon himself, talking about how many people he killed in Afghanistan.
Yeah,
I mean,
yes.
I don't know what... the thing is with me, I just find it so annoying that they treated this country with contempt. They treated the people of this country with contempt. They ran off to have their big private life, which they didn't keep private, and now, because they've chosen to come back, we have no choice but to pay to protect them. And the irony of that and the hypocrisy of that, it lands very heavily on me, and I'm sure a lot of other people as well.
Will do. It will do. Your viewers, your listeners will be listening to this. That's almost like a personal, emotional view. I'm coming from like a...
I mean, I'm petty, Graham. I'm a petty person.
I'm coming from, and I completely understand that, and I'm with you on that. But then the police professional side of me, security side kicks in, and I'm like, yeah, but hang on a minute. There's a risk and threat assessment here to an individual and the family. They're linked to the king and the heir to the throne. There's almost like a more judgment around the threat to them, and that needs to be secured, protected, prevented. So I think that side of me comes in. It's like, well, there must be a compromise that can be found here. If they're going to do public-facing duties, then yes, they would need some sort of security. You'd also want the police to be involved with.
Well, I was just going to say, Graham, is there a compromise in as much as so that we don't pay for their security, but the police can advise their security detail, that they can be used as almost consultants, if you like, to a privately funded security detail, and that will come with some cost, but with not the considerable cost we're talking about supplying officers to actually accompany this couple and their children.
That it's possible to a degree, but again, when you've got serving police officers who are subject to the Official Secrets Act, and confidential information and intelligence, etc., you can't then go sharing that with a private security company. Yeah. So because you're dealing with serving police officers who have sworn an oath, etc., and are bound by discipline and regulations, etc., they don't apply to a private security firm. So it's you can share some information and intelligence, and that's where a lot of the protection and security comes from. It's based on risk and threat. That comes from the information and intelligence you got from the police systems. So you might be able to share some information, but not all of it. But you can with police officers. So there's a degree of separation then between the private individuals and police protection. And they've also got the links in them with police forces. You know, protection officers from wherever, London or wherever, can literally travel around the country and work with another police force, because they work the same way, the same operating methods, and they talk the same language, the same jargon, etc. They understand the communication terms, etc. So for me, from a professional's perspective, it would be far better to have some police involvement, and whether that's at the 5 million level or slightly less, as Lord Blunkett has suggested. I think there's some work to be done there on that. I'm with you. The personal emotional side of me comes in and says, well, 5 million is far too much. They've gone out, they've earned their money, etc. They can afford it themselves. But then I can see from a policing perspective, it would be better to be able to manage that in-house to a certain degree than literally having a private firm providing the security protection, and then having the police having to almost turn up and work with them to an extent.
It's just really difficult, isn't it? Because as a population, we're told endlessly that the police have got no money. We're told endlessly that they can't protect us because of this. The police are saying this early release scheme is going to mean that more crimes are committed because there's not enough people around, there's not enough money around, and yet we can find a few million a year, which would pay for a few coppers on the streets, to look after some spoilt people who won't be working for us, who won't be doing anything to give back, and who have earned hundreds of millions of dollars and not paid any British tax on that. It just sticks in the craw, right?
I completely get where you're coming from. I think you have to, again, you look at the I was going to say the worst case scenario, but look at what possibly could happen. Let's plan for this to happen, and what's likely to be said if this happens and we haven't put in place the proper plans or put in place some form of either engagement, protection, security. And I think, as I said, Lord Blunkett's like, there must be a compromise to be found. I'm completely on the same page as he suggested. I think we don't need to go belt and braces with them, but I think we do need to go some way towards the police being involved somehow, somewhere along the line.
So we've just got to suck it up, basically.
Well, that's short and sweet answer, but yes, I think professionally, I'm looking at it from.
No, I get it. I completely.
If something will happen, then what would it look like? You just said, well, for a couple of million quid, we decided not to do it, and I don't think that would come out very well.
Yeah, no, I'm afraid I probably do agree with you, but it's wonderful to talk to you, Graham. Thank you very much indeed. Graham Wesson there, former Met police officer and author of How to Be a Police Officer. So, look, give me a call on this. What do you make of, well, you know where I stand on this. I don't think I've been very subtle about it. But I'd love to know where you stand on this. It just sticks in my craw. It really does. The way that they really had a go at us, they sold us down the river, they sold their country down the river, they sold their family down the river, with the Oprah interview, with you know, taking the mick out of the late Queen. All of that was so distasteful. And now, because they've decided they want to try a British life, or they don't like Donald Trump and they don't like the way America's going, they are planning a move back to the UK. They also want their children to be educated in a school where they don't have to have a gun drill. So, you know, they're selecting, obviously, as they can as rich people, the life that they want to lead. But that doesn't mean that we should have to pay for it. That's how I feel about it. So, give me a call, 0344 499 1000.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it is Petrie here with you, and coming up at the top of the hour we have Vincent Moss coming into the studio to go through the papers for Tuesday. Now though, Defence Minister Luke Pollard has urged social media platforms to remove certain videos after a viral trend showing people going the wrong way down roads at high speed. We've seen some disastrous accidents or incidents in the past few weeks because of this so-called viral trend. This call to action follows a fatal head-on collision on the A66 near Middlesbrough, where a car driving the wrong way down a dual carriageway collided with a police vehicle who had nothing to do with the chase, by the way, killing 7 people, including those police officers PC Matthew Blades and PC Tom Clough. But can we trust social media to police itself? It's always said, no, we don't need you to put rules around us. We don't need you to tell us. We will do it ourselves. We're sensible people. Is the time come now to actually push back on that? Well, joining me now to discuss this further is David Babs, who's a lead consultant for Clean Up the Internet, and they campaign for evidence-based action to increase civility and respect online and to safeguard freedom of expression and reduce online bullying, trolling, misinformation and fraud. David, it's good to meet you. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. Do we still have trust that social media companies are capable of policing themselves?
I don't think we do, really, and I don't think we should have. I mean, I guess what we're seeing this evening, where TikTok in particular are making announcements that they've removed videos that have been found circulating on their platform after 7 people have died, after Downing Street's got involved. That's not self-regulation. That's them doing a PR operation to try and manage the fallout after the event. And this isn't the first time. It's not the 5th time.
No, they're very good at closing the stable door after the horse has bolted and then kicking it open again. I think that's the way I would put it. They react rather than they're proactive about these things.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, obviously, in this case, the individuals bear responsibility for their actions. But look, when we talk about a viral trend on social media, it's not like the weather. It's a viral trend because the social media platforms their algorithms have chosen to promote this content and share it with millions of people. The accounts that share this stuff, it's so easy to create a fake account and share stuff anonymously, send abuse anonymously, and without any consequences. These are all choices that these platforms make, and they're clearly not going to stop making those choices unless regulators step in and force them to.
They always use the argument, though, David, that this is freedom of expression and freedom of what people want to see and what people watch. But there's always been laws around advertising criminality. There's always been laws around what you can and can't say. There's never been full freedom of speech. I couldn't sit here and say certain things on this show just because I believed I was free to say them. There's always been responsibility attached to those freedom of speech laws. But this is what the companies say, isn't it? They play, look, we don't want to curtail people's freedoms. How do we answer that?
Well, I think the freedoms they don't want to curtail are their own, and for them that freedom is about making a lot of money. And really, again, this is about the design of these platforms. These are some of the richest companies that the world has ever known. And they are making very conscious design choices, and those design choices are what amplify. They don't just allow this dangerous content to stay up. They amplify it to other users. They don't, it's a whole system that they have created which propagates this content. It's not really about just these individuals. It's about how these platforms work.
It's also the case, isn't it, with certain platforms that the more likes you get, then you can make money from this criminal behaviour, and there are laws around not being able to make money from criminal behaviour. So again, I don't understand how you're not allowed to profit from a crime, right? So if they're committing a crime, why? Surely that's something the social media people could do, is say, well, we're not going to pay you. You're not at least that.
Yeah, well, really, I think that would be settling for too little, really. If it's criminal behaviour that's being promoted, it just shouldn't be there in the first place. But you are right that the incentives here are all wrong. For the social media companies, they are looking to sell advertising revenue, and that the more inflammatory, hateful, dangerous something is, the more it grabs people's attention, the more their algorithms promote it, and therefore that's good for their bottom line. And yes, you're right that the same kind of incentives for individual content creators can draw them towards extreme content, because what they can monetize is again, what the algorithms pick up, and the algorithms we see again and again promoting stuff which is dangerous or hateful or criminal in this case.
Yeah, I mean, again, I was reading today that these social media companies are saying, well, we're not going to allow people under the age of 18 to see some of this content, but it's still criminal for a 19-year-old to do it, or a 20-year-old to do it. How do we force these companies to actually toe the line? If they are saying that they can police themselves, how do we force them to do that?
Well, in the UK, we have now got an Online Safety Act, which sets some rules around social media, how social media companies operate, and put Ofcom in charge as the regulator. And
Ofcom's a paper tiger when it comes to the social media.
Well,
it really is.
I think that is part of a problem. But,
it's too weak.
Yes, and in this particular case, they have been far too slow and far too timid in their implementation of the Online Safety Act. So, to give you one example, there are provisions within the Online Safety Act which say that social media companies should at least enforce their own terms and conditions, which do generally contain things about not promoting dangerous or criminal activities. But it's nearly 3 years since that act was passed. Those provisions within the Online Safety Act still haven't been brought into force by Ofcom. In fact, they're just consulting now on how to implement them, with it likely they won't come into force until 2027. Now, you've then got, not only are they being so slow, but often then really being quite deferential to the social media companies in their enforcement. And that's something that needs to change. And I guess that comes back to government. Again, we've heard today from ministers talking about the need for something to be done about this. And we do often see ministers pop up when there's a crisis and say more needs to be done. That's understandable, but I think we also need them to be breathing more down Ofcom's neck. If Ofcom's got good answers as to why it can't do it, give them more powers, or give the powers to someone else.
I'd give the powers to someone else. I think that because it's such a big environment, social media, I'm not convinced by Ofcom's handling of any of it, to be honest with you.
You're definitely not the only person that suggested that recently.
Yeah. But it also, there are things that we can do which would be very unpopular. But, for example, if sites like Instagram or TikTok or whoever it happens to be don't police themselves, we switch them off locally, that they can then, they're not making any money. It's money that motivates them. If we were able to limit the amount of people that it gets to, then I'm sure they'd do something then, wouldn't they?
Well, it is true that they rely on all of us for that's their business model.
Yeah.
Sadly, it is also true that, as is being revealed in a growing number of court cases in the US and from whistleblowers, they've been very carefully designed to be very addictive. And they've, in lots of areas, squeezed out other sources of news. So while I think you're right that we probably should all be trying to be on social media platforms less, there is also the challenge that they are, we're pretty hooked on them, and they've squeezed out other sources of entertainment and information as an alternative, which is why I do think it does ultimately come back to, alongside whatever we do as individuals, government and regulators stepping in to clean them up a bit.
So, to put it bluntly, then, do you think we should take away policing social media from the social media companies and take it over?
I think it is definitely the case that if you leave them to their own devices and to mark their own homework, you end up with the kind of situation we've seen now. Now, that probably doesn't mean that government should be making every last decision, but it should certainly be scrutinising the frameworks that are set to make sure they're good enough, checking that they do follow those frameworks, and stepping in with hefty fines or measures to disrupt their business if they are consistently not delivering. And let's face it, at the moment, these companies are associated with a huge range of harmful impacts. It's a major place where crime takes place now, and that's not, if any business in the real world was somewhere where huge amounts of crime were taking place, huge amounts of crime was being promoted, then somebody would turn up with a clipboard and start asking awkward questions. And if they didn't like the answers, that business would get shut down.
You're absolutely right. And I was just about to say exactly the same thing. David, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. David Babbs there, lead consultant for Clean Up the Internet. Right, stay where you are, because coming up we're going to be going through the papers for tomorrow, and when I say we, I mean myself and the wonderful Vincent Moss will be in this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there. This is Talk, and this is Petrie with you until 1 o'clock. And midnight, of course, it is the Talkback Hour. And I do want to hear from you about how you feel about the possibility of paying for the security for Harry and Meghan. I think I've made my position very clear. I'm not happy about this at all, although I do understand the reasons that we might end up coughing up millions of pounds. But this couple decided they wanted nothing to do with this country. They wanted nothing to do with their family. They certainly made an awful lot of money. I mean, I think Harry from Spare has made something in the region of $90 million. They got a $200 million deal from Netflix. They got a $50 million deal from Spotify, along with various other deals that they've made for hard cash. Not a penny of tax of that has been paid in this country. And yet, because they've decided on a whim or whatever, for whatever reason, that they want to come back to the UK and they want their children to go to British schools, that they should have taxpayer-funded security. And the irony and hypocrisy of all of that rests very heavily with me. At the same time, I realise Harry is the son of the king. And he didn't ask to be son of the king. And his children didn't ask to be grandchildren of the king. Meghan asked to be married to the son of the king. So should they get that security paid for by you and me, who frankly they have been very unpleasant about as a nation of people, that we should now cough up out of our own money to support two very rich, very pampered, very spoilt individuals, despite their birth, right? There are other royals who don't get publicly funded security. And those that do are working royals. They work for this country. They do things for this country. They run charities. They do a lot of good stuff, right, for this country. Whether you think it's worth the money or not, that's up to you. But I'm just stating a fact. They do good stuff for this country. Harry and Meghan will not be working for this country. Their status as private individuals will not change. That's what we're being told from the palace. So they are private individuals, despite the birthright of Prince Harry and the two grandchildren of the king. So as private individuals, other private individuals pay their own security if they feel they need it. Harry said, I think about a year ago, I cannot see a day that I would ever bring my family back to the UK. Well, it's here. And we don't know what the reasons are, but they're certainly not for the benefit of this country. That I am 100% certain of. So why should we? Or maybe you think I'm being naive. Maybe you think I'm being petty, which I am. Maybe you think I'm being small-minded, which I probably am. But that's how I feel. And I'd love to know how you feel about it. Had they been paying tax, volunteering to pay tax in this country from their hundreds of millions of dollars that they earned from the fact that Harry was a royal? Because he's not that interesting without that royal title, right? He would never have made that money without that royal connection. If any of that money had been paid in tax, maybe I'd be a little bit more forgiving, because they'd have paid tax equivalent to probably a year or two's worth of security. Fine, I wouldn't have an issue with that. But they were living in America at the time, so doubtful, isn't it? What do you think? Give me a call. 0344 4991 calls charged at the national rate, but we do call you back. And text the word talk and your message to 87222. Well, joining me in the studio now is Vincent Moss, former political editor. Vincent, thank you for joining me. Hi, Petrie. I know I'm being small-minded about this. I know that I am being emotional about this, but when they left this country, you know, when they mexited, or whatever they wanted to call it, and they left us in the dust, right? And not only did they leave us in the dust, they threw, as the kids would say, shade at us at the same time, as a nation, as a country, as a people. Then they went on to attack the royal family and the Queen, taking the mick out of curtsying to the Queen. All of that, which was, and then the book The Spare, all of that stuff went on. Do you think it's reasonable for them to expect us to cough up now?
No, I don't think it is, and that's really the public's view as well. I mean, there's a poll in the Times newspaper that's making exactly that point and saying that 71% of people saying the government, i.e. us, shouldn't be funding security for them. They've made lots of money and they should pay the cost of their own security. And also, let's not forget that Prince Harry has made himself a target because he talked about his military service and how many people he killed, and which made him a bigger target.
Which nobody ever does, by the way. Nobody in the...
That's right.
Unless they're drunk at a bar, and that's different, right?
So he's increased the risk to himself. And we know, I think, that Meghan has got stalkers, so they are at greater risk than some of the other non-working royals. But as you say, they've made millions, they've not paid UK tax, and the overwhelming view of people tends to be they should pay. Now, they can't pay because you're not allowed to pay for private police. But surely, as I think your guest Graham Wetton from the Met Police officer was saying earlier, there must be a way that this can be done, whether that's they pay money to a victim's charity or they pay into some... And also, the rules are the rules, but change the rules.
Change the rules.
So they can have police security of a limited extent, like the former Home Secretary David Blunkett suggested, not sort of 2 cars packed full of police officers, which is the top level of security.
Just to take them to Tesco for a bit of
exactly.
shopping.
Maybe just a limited amount of security. What they really want the security for is the intelligence that the police have, which is vital about who's maybe looking at them as a target, but also police can carry guns, concealed weapons, and private security can't. And that's the element they'll be looking for. There's also the social kudos, because let's not forget, if you're a police officer, you can park on double yellow lines right outside the restaurant. You can probably drive the car straight onto the runway if they're getting a flight, perhaps, without having to go through all the hoi polloi through airport security. So there are other kind of social advantages, if you like, of having police security. It's a different level. There's no kind of parking around the corner when you've got police security. They park where they want. So there's those elements as well, but surely there must be a way that they can get some sort of security, because there's no doubt they are targets to certain people, but we shouldn't have to pay for it. No,
I mean, I get that, again, Graham Wetton was saying, look, you know, it is for the intelligence, and we're not allowed to share that with civilians. We're not allowed to share that. But there has to be a way of being able to advise a private security team, perhaps with one police consultant or something within that team, who can say, don't go to, you know, don't go down the beach today, or don't take your kids to... I don't know what, but there has to be a way that we don't end up footing the bill, because I think their ingratitude to this country and their treatment of this country, I'm not even sure they're welcome back. I don't, you know, 71% saying they don't want to pay for their security. I wonder how many people are interested in them being in this country in the first place.
Well, exactly. We don't know how long they're necessarily going to be here for. It suggests that possibly a reasonable amount of time. It sounds as though the children are enrolled in school for the autumn term, but it depends on what they're going to do. I mean, they're very mobile, they're very rich, so they can move again.
Exactly.
Who knows? I think
and they wouldn't expect Canada to pay for their security. Canada or Australia wouldn't do that.
No, they wouldn't. I think the key element, though, is the idea that you've potentially got armed protection. And that's the one bit, because there's lots of private security firms that employ ex-police officers. So you can get most of the skill set, if you like, but the one thing you can't get in extremis, if there's a real threat to life, is you can't get that armed protection. And that's probably, which isn't being said too much, that's probably the element that they most want, is that high level of security. And only the police can provide that, and you can't pay for it privately. So it is a bit of a catch-22 situation.
Yeah, but I just... at what point do they think they would require this security, because I get it if they're going to, there's a diary event or whatever, but they won't be diary events for these people. It's not like the King or the Queen, where there are lots of events that they get driven to and from. They have the royal protection, they have the full protection, and a lot of that is diary events. When he's at Highgrove or wherever it is, there's probably the security is still, he's still protected, but it's not 24 hours a day cops around him with guns the whole time, right? So when do Harry and Meghan want this protection, and for what purpose? To go to the theatre in the West End? No. To go to a dinner party with mates in Clapham? No. Do you see what I mean?
Yes,
I don't get under what circumstances they want this protection. All day, every day for shopping and stuff? No.
That's right. And it's, well, and also it's the idea of having a chauffeur, effectively, because that's what they are. You're not driving the car. It's a trained police driver would be at the top level.
I'd love a chauffeur.
So, yes, that's effectively what it comes down to, is it's a big Range Rover with lots of trained drivers. But I think if he was doing something, for example, like the Invictus Games, which, of course, is one of his charities that he supports, if he's doing a high-profile thing at the Invictus Games charity event for the ex-military, fine. He gets limited security for that. I think most people might be OK with that. But as you say, if he's living a quietish life in the Cotswolds...
A private life. They are private individuals. They are not... They opted out.
Yes.
They decided.
And that's why I think most people wouldn't support it. Now, it is apparently supposed to be under review by the committee that reviews security for sort of ex-government ministers, prime ministers, and that's being looked at again, although the review is not expected to be completed by the time they are living here in the UK again. It'd be very interesting to see what the recommendations of that review are and what it thinks they need in terms of security, because that's what defines it at the end of the day.
Yeah, I would just want to know, is it to drive the children to school? Well, even William and Kate walked their children to school. You know, it was within walking distance, and it was easy and all those things. But what is it? What do they want it for? What are they envisaging here? And I cannot see Harry accepting what Lord Blunkett is talking about, and that is that sort of halfway measure of... I think he wants the full... You know, all these people around him, 2 cars, 6 people, 9 different police officers on rotation through the day, full-on protection and intelligence. But I don't know for what purpose we're going to be providing this protection to them, just to be private citizens and go do a bit of shopping or a bit of... whatever, going to auditions.
Well, exactly.
For what's her face?
And there have been government ministers that made very sensitive decisions on terrorists and locking up terrorists and things like that to this day that probably haven't got very high levels of security because they may not want it or because they may not have been granted it. So it's very odd that he's pushing for this high level of security, and he does seem to be... but perhaps he's been given a tip it is going to happen. We don't know, because he said he wouldn't come here without that protection, and he's now coming here. Yeah. So there may well be something we don't know about what's been offered to him.
Yeah, I just... as usual, we haven't got enough information, but I know that the country will be very upset, because we're being told that we're going to have to accept tax rises coming up in this October budget to pay for everything. And if we then end up paying for Harry and Meghan, who are incredibly pampered and spoiled individuals, I just think that it'll backfire on them.
It will, and the public, clearly, looking at the opinion polls, won't wear that. They won't want money spent in that way. Straight in Times, there are rumours of tax rises in the budget in October. Yeah. People are already paying record levels of taxes. The last thing they want to see is £5 million being spent on security for multimillionaires. Yeah.
Exactly that. So that's the phone in. So give me a call about that coming up at midnight. 03444 991 1000. Quick break, and Vincent and I'll be back with the front pages.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it is Petrie, and with me is the fabulous Vincent Moss, former political editor, and starting with the Times, and there is that story, Britons want Prince Harry to make up and cough up. Most Britons do not think the taxpayer should pay for security detail. But Andy Burnham has already said he's a private individual, he's a wealthy private individual, so Andy Burnham's not getting involved. He's saying no. He doesn't think it should be done.
Yeah, no, he's also aware of the polling and he knows it's a little fight that he doesn't really want to get into. Yeah,
absolutely. But they do think, the people want Harry to reconcile with Prince William. I don't think that's going to happen.
Hard to see how it will happen.
Hard to see. I mean, even if William could forgive him for what he said about him, he's not going to forgive him for what he said about his wife.
100%, and also just the disclosures, the level of disclosures that Harry made in the book, pretty unforgivable, I'd have thought, in royal circles. I would have thought so. I'm not. I know I wouldn't be able to, but like I said, I'm petty. This is, here we go. Realistic Burnham hints at tax increases in budget. He says he won't take risks with people's livelihoods, but here's this word we always get before a budget: challenging times. He's refused to rule out tax rises in the autumn budget. But if he promised to spend less, perhaps we wouldn't have to tax as much. So there is a way he could not tax us, and that is not to spend as much. That's
not
right.
to make so many promises.
It's either cuts in areas like welfare or it's spending increases. And we know the government's got to find more money for defence. It's already got a shortfall on the defence budget. The Times is saying 4.7 billion extra is needed for additional defence spending. So that's got to be found from somewhere. Now, Andy Burnham is trying to have a bit of a bounce in the polls, doing rather well at the moment. That happens to new leaders, new prime ministers for a while. But if he wants to stay popular, then tax rises on October the 28th and the budget happens is not going to be a way of doing it. So he's got a challenge there himself.
No, we've got he needs to find 1.2 billion a year to fund the defence investment plan. We've got all sorts of things going up. But didn't he say he committed himself to the 2024 general election manifesto, which is no rises in VAT, income tax or national insurance?
That's right, he has committed to that. So he's got very limited room for manoeuvre because they're the three taxes that tend to raise a lot. Rachel Reeves got round that famously because she raised national insurance, but on the employer side, not the employee side. Yeah. So he's got limited room for manoeuvre. He's allegedly the headroom that Rachel Reeves, the former Chancellor, had was about 20 billion. That's now reduced apparently to about 15 billion. So sounds a lot of money, but a very small amount, really. So if he wants to make changes, particularly on things like the cost of living, which he said he's going to try and help people with, he's going to have to find it from somewhere. And as you say, if that's not going to be tax rises, it will have to be spending cuts.
Yeah, and he's already committed billions to bus fares, getting the homeless into beds by Christmas. That's 500 million nearly, and there was Owen Winter and taking the VAT off fuel.
And rumours he's going to increase the foreign aid budget again,
as well. So. Yeah, so there's a lot of things he wants to do. We just cut your cloth, and the Prime Minister shelved plans to put Thames Water into administration amid concerns about the cost of the legal risks. And here we go again, backtracking, U-turning, no backbone. Seeing Andy Burnham, he was like, I'm going to make the water companies responsible, I'm going to take them to task, we're going to bring them back into public ownership. No, absolutely no sign of that at all.
Well, this is the thing. Once you get in through the door and you look at the books, I mean, there was a lot of talk in Andy Burnham's sort of run-up to becoming Prime Minister from his allies saying he'll tackle the Thames Water issue, but it's a problem because it's a hugely indebted company and finding ways of making it work and leaving potentially the taxpayers, the Times reports, with risk leaving the taxpayer with a bill of £2 billion, which is what Thames Water believes it needs to keep it running until the end of the year. Well, where's that money going to come from? So, again, it's the old thing about you can have these ambitions to do things, but once once you look at the books and the costs, it becomes a rather different story. So Thames Water is another sort of thorny challenge that Andy Burnham's got to grapple with. He suggested in June that it could be nationalised, but he seems to be backing away from that suggestion because of the huge costs involved.
They're all the blooming same, aren't they? Just gobby. Just, oh, this is, you know, we're gonna, you know, what he said, he wanted to introduce greater public control of the essentials, including water and energy companies, which is something that I think everybody in this country would support. And now, you know, running away from that, it's just too difficult, too complicated, too expensive. And yet, what's the cost to us if it stays where it is? And nobody ever thinks about that. There's no long-termism here at all.
No, there isn't.
Right, that's the Times. The Daily Telegraph. UK handed secrets to foil Putin's saboteurs. Ukraine shares its gold mine of battlefield intelligence that will retrain military's AI. Ukraine has handed over a gold mine of secret battlefield intelligence to help protect the UK from Russian spies and saboteurs. So this was a quid pro quo. We gave them the plans to a missile and they gave us secrets.
Sounds like a very good deal. I mean, we know that we're under threat from Russia in all sorts of ways, in Iran and other places, and we know that Ukraine is leading the way on some of this battlefield technology when it comes to drones and other AI-related skills. And if we're getting those, which it sounds like we are, that kind of gold mine, as the Telegraph refers to it, that could really help protect British bases, British assets. I think it would be military bases that would benefit first and protect us from the threat of attack. So it sounds like a very good thing. And if the trade, which has made Britain more of a target now, according to Russia, that we're giving them missiles, or certainly the know-how to make their own missiles, then getting a trade-off in terms of battlefield intelligence sounds like a smart move and a good move.
Yeah, I agree with that, because I mean, look at the way that Ukraine has adapted, you know, necessity being the mother of invention, and how they've changed warfare, actually, for forever. I mean, you know, this cheaper drone technology now is really going to be the way that I think most countries go, and with Ukraine sharing a lot of that information with us as well is it's a you know, it's a good thing to have that.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, they can build drones for £40,000 that can knock out missiles that cost hundreds of thousands or millions of pounds to produce each one.
Exactly that. Lord Mandelson was targeted by a White House impersonator a year before Andy Burnham exchanged messages with a person posing as Donald Trump's chief of staff. Look, if I got a text message from somebody the other day, the number I didn't recognise, just going, oi, and then some sort of rude message, which is probably a friend of mine, to be fair. But because I don't know who they are, because I don't know, then I didn't reply. So how are politicians so stupid that they just go, oh, hello?
Well, I think, I'm not sure, but isn't what's happening with these hackers is they've hacked into your phone number. So it would be a bit like if you hacked into my phone and you were sending messages to my contacts as Vincent Moss. So you assume...
I'd love that.
Yes, it could cause a lot of trouble. So,
that'd be fun.
So I assume that's what's happened, which is that they think they're getting messages from somebody pretending to be Susie Wiles.
It was Lammy that gave Andy Burnham Susie Wiles' number.
That was helpful briefing, wasn't it? Somebody that blaming David Lammy for Andy Burnham falling victim to this hoaxer.
Maybe
but
he did it deliberately.
Really dangerous stuff, because this is top-level information. You would assume if you've got...
There'd be a code word or something, right?
I think the problem is that all these world leaders now just ring each other. Donald Trump famously is guilty of this. You ring him on his journalists, ringing on his mobile. So there is this culture of WhatsApping and ringing people on their mobiles. And if it says the name of the person you think it is, you assume it's them, and you get done in like this. But they're clearly going to have to look at these exchanges on WhatsApp, which is where it seems to be happening. People think it's a super safe network, and I guess it is. But that's only if the person you think is sending the message is actually that person.
Sending the messages, exactly. And you know, my son and I, we have a code word now. In case there's a message I don't recognise or it's a number. Good idea. We have a code word.
Well, is he sending all those ones that Mum, I need more money now?
No, I did get one of those the other day, actually, and said, I said, no, of course I'll send you anything you like, just give me the code word. Nothing.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So, you know, I just always say to my son, even if it's his voice on the phone and he's asking for something, I go, "What's the code word?" And he'll give me the code word. And I go, "OK, fine." Because there's actually now, I saw a warning somewhere by a copper talking about how voice cloning.
Yes, AI can clone your voice, so there's no guarantee that if you get left a voice message from who you think is a relative, that it is actually your relative. It is
actually your relative. And so he was saying that everybody should now start to develop code words. If it's anybody asking for money or anybody asking for a specific thing for you to do for them, that you should really have code words now, because even the voice, you can't even trust the voice from somebody now. The other story on the Telegraph is TikTok promoting thrilling police chase videos to young people. Now, there's no suggestion, I have to say at this stage, that that crash on the A66, although it was filmed, they haven't been able to link that to TikTok, that they don't think it was being filmed specifically for TikTok. But I don't suppose how they'd know, because they could always upload it later. But I just thought I'd say that. But TikTok is promoting high-speed police chase videos to young users by labelling them as thrilling. Now, these are people breaking the law, and there are rules against glorifying, you know, even if I had somebody phoning me and saying that they had refused to pay the fine for their TV licence, right? I'm not allowed to say, "Well done you," because that's encouraging law breaking, right? That's just it. Those are the rules. You can't encourage any law breaking. So I don't know how these social media companies are getting away with showing people driving with their knees, driving the wrong way down the road, and speeding, all of which are against the law. I don't know how they're able to do that when I would have to stop somebody from saying speeding is fun.
Well, I think presumably what happens is they carry on broadcasting or platforming these items until there's a complaint, and then they may or may not take some action, because it can't be hard, because the way their algorithm works,
Yeah,
they can
must know
send you all
what it
sorts
is.
of stuff, and they know exactly what you like and don't like and the rest of it. So there must be a way of changing the algorithm to stop this stuff coming out, and yet they only seem to do it when there's a tragedy or a disaster. And I think in this case, TikTok is saying we don't allow content featuring harmful or dangerous activities that risk serious physical harm. Or it's YouTube who's saying that. Well, but that's not true, is it? Because we know that these things exist, and they get taken down sometimes, but they don't always get taken down. So
no, it's closing the stable door after the horse has bolted.
And everybody wants to see more action on this, and the platforms have got to be a lot more responsible in what they do, especially when this stuff has such tragic consequences.
Yeah. It's a shocker, it really is. Right, let's take a break before we continue on with The Independent. We'll be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you, and with me, Vincent Moss, former political editor. The Independent, Vincent. Labour hails return of Council House with a plan to build 70,000 homes. PM signals comeback of local authority homes across England with a £10 billion package. That sounds expensive.
Sounds like a lot of money. There's a lot of talk among all the political parties.
Can somebody do the maths, please, for me? 10 billion divided by 70,000. Thank you.
It's a lot of money and it's a lot of council houses, but we know the government is already behind on its house building pledge over the term of this Parliament, and yes,
did they say 1.5 million, did they say?
Yes,
yeah.
over the 5 years.
Over 5 years.
Which, when people split it into years, they don't like, because they say, well, it was always going to be more at the back end of the Parliament. And now it's talking about a great big council house building programme, which a lot of people would welcome and would be great if it happens. But given how hard it is to get planning permission for virtually anything these days, it's yet another high bar, and very hard to see how it will happen very quickly. And again, where's the money going to come from? It's not entirely clear where the money's going to come from.
It's not entirely clear. It's not up on my screen. I don't know what's going on with my screen, but it's not. Said something went wrong. That's what it says at the top of my screen. Something went wrong. Yes, it did. Stop it. Stop doing something wrong and put it right. That'd be interesting. Anyway, just tell me in my ear, how much per house? Right, I'm going to find out, because I think that sounds like quite expensive housing. 10 billion for 70,000.
I'm rubbish at maths.
It's 143,000 then, roughly, per home. 143 grand a home. To build, that sounds quite expensive.
It depends where they are, I suppose, doesn't it? It depends on the cost of the land. But I suppose the average house costs about, what, £250,000 in England to buy.
But not to build.
No. So it shouldn't cost that much, especially if they're built in cheaper areas outside the big cities.
Well, but you're building in bulk, aren't you?
Yeah.
So it's not like just building a one-off house. That sounds a bit pricey to me, but there you go. But look, they're saying that the return of the council house, 70,000 over what amount of... Again, no detail. Over what time period, where, you know...
And especially when they're behind with the main pledge, which they came into to government with, which was, as you say, the 1.5 million new homes over 5 years.
They will silently drop that. They will drop that. I mean, look, I've always said there's no such thing as affordable housing. The only truly affordable housing is social housing. So I'm glad they've dropped the pretence of affordable homes, because that's ludicrous, right? That is a joke. It's something like a couple of percentage points below national rate. It's nothing really, and that's what they call affordable. But council homes is a good plan, but where are the details?
Exactly, it'd be popular, but it also comes after Reform talked about targeting who they would give council houses to, and they had an announcement just a day or so ago talking about how they would prioritise married UK-born couples for social housing ahead of people who weren't born in the UK, because a lot of the head of households of people in social housing were not necessarily born in the UK, although they may well be UK citizens. They weren't necessarily born in the UK.
Yeah, it's the born in the UK thing, isn't it? That's the big one. Right, The Guardian. Burnham accuses Kremlin of outrageous threats to Britain. I mean, they've pulled out their ambassador, of course, that was last week, but has accused Kremlin of outrageous threats to my country as Russia warned of an escalation in tensions after the UK's decision to present Ukraine with new classified blueprints. And it is interesting that Russia really, we are the bad guy. They really hate the Brits, the UK, historically as well. And, you know, they keep singling us out for this narrative, even though, like I said, other European countries have been very supportive of Ukraine in many, many ways. But for them, it's almost like it plays well to a home crowd.
It does, and there's also the fact that, of course, Britain and France position themselves as head of the coalition of the willing, as it's called, so we are more high profile. And also, but the language from Andy Burnham is very strong here, talking about these outrageous threats to Britain, which we know about with Russian warships in the Channel and the North Sea and other areas, and looking at our cables, our undersea cables and things like that, and potentially damaging or looking to damage those, or at least map them. So the language is getting stronger. They'll also be worried about the military support, and although we've always talked about giving defensive support to Ukraine, I mean, I'm not sure the Russians will see sharing the know-how to build missiles that can reach Russia as a defensive capability, so they'll be worried about that. But of course, Russia is still, while it's got Iran, North Korea and China supporting it, then there's no chance of this conflict anytime soon. It's now
no, and they are the aggressor. They could always stop. And when they said that Britain is preventing the peace process, it's kind of like, well, no, you are.
Yes, they could stop at any point. I mean, it's one of the reasons he was there
Ukraine is defending itself.
Yes.
Russia is attacking. So if they stopped attacking, Ukraine wouldn't have to defend. So it's, as far as I can see, it's quite simple, quite straightforward. That's how peace happens. Yeah. The other story on the front page of The Guardian, care leavers, early deaths linked to a lack of support. I am not surprised by this at all. These amazing people working day in and day out, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, caring for somebody, profound isolation contributes to the death. Oh, no, this is care leavers, I beg your pardon. So this is people leaving the care system.
Yes, and not getting the support they need.
Yeah.
I mean, they've already, by the fact they're in the care system, have probably had quite traumatic and troubled lives, and because they're not getting the support when they leave, according to this review that's been commissioned by the government, a lot of people who've left care are dying very young, and it's being described as a national tragedy. Josh McAllister, who's the Children's Minister, saying care leavers have been left so isolated and lonely. That's the core of the problem.
That's really sad.
And they need to be humanised, and there needs to be a focus on building relations with them. And he says it's a stain on society. But again, yes, it's another area of public care where there'll be spending pressures, and the solution is usually spending more money.
Of course it is spending more money, and although I read that wrong, caregivers also need more support as well. Police arrest 12 following a crash that killed 7. The 12 people have been arrested on suspicion of offences, including being involved with organised crime, as part of the investigation into that crash that killed those 2 police officers. This is because there was another car, a Volvo, that was involved that had ghost plates on it as well, cloned plates, which was associated with the car that was in the crash and also associated with crime gangs, and they've now gone around and swept up 12 people under suspicion of drug-related issues and firearms as well. So there's more to this story.
Well, very much so. I mean, as you say, the police have definitively linked the 2 cars, both the one that was in the accident and this Volvo. Arrested 12 people. It'll be ongoing. They'll doubtless be going through phone and mobile footage and telephone calls, and a lot more to be heard on this terrible, terrible story.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it goes a lot deeper than we first thought. The Daily Mail, concerns grow as prescriptions surge 21% in 5 years, a record 1 in 7 on antidepressants as pill use rockets. You know, and this will be because there's very little other help in the system. So it's easier and quicker for a doctor to go, well, here's some antidepressants which do work and people shouldn't feel ashamed of taking them, you know, while waiting for other potential treatments, because there's no slack in the system.
That's right, and then people may want a talking therapy or some other kind of support that's not available, and also people may be demanding this sort of medication from their doctors. It's very hard for doctors, if people are determined to get it, to say no. It's not easy to say no to somebody who's upset and wants medication. And the Mail's talking about a record 9.1 million patients were given drugs by their doctor last year, antidepressants, which does sound a huge number of people. It also talks about a big regional divide, with antidepressants use highest in North Cumbria and South Yorkshire, almost double the rate seen in the richer parts of London. So north-south divide on people from the most deprived communities apparently getting about 1/3 more prescriptions than those in the least disadvantaged parts of the country. So a record use of antidepressants, and particularly in poorer areas.
Don't you think that's a bit of a strange comparison, though, to sort of suggest? I mean, for me, it's fairly obvious that people living with poverty and people living in difficult areas with perhaps high crime rates are going to suffer from more anxiety and depression than people in an affluent area of London. I think the comparison is probably off.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I guess, yeah. By definition, if you're in an area of high unemployment, you're more likely
to be more depressed or anxious about your future than if you're rich and living in an affluent area. I think it would be more beneficial to look at areas that are like each other, one from London and
Yeah.
one from... That would, to me, make more sense.
But a huge number of people, isn't it? 9
Huge,
million.
huge number of people. Flares and balloons at the vigil for joyriders. I'm not sure why they're wearing masks. It all looks a bit, I don't know, bad. Flares and balloons at the vigil for joyriders in the A66 crash that killed hero police. I mean, I understand that 5 young men lost their lives, but they, you know, they were mucking around with the cars. So I don't know how I feel about that, really. It's sad that they're dead, but, you know, they wouldn't be if they weren't driving the wrong way down a road for fun. Right, the FT... Trump pledges to bump Canadian car tariffs to 50% after trade talks collapse. And they collapsed at the last moment when apparently the US made demands on Canada not signing any trade deals with any other country and dropping the French language was another demand.
Yes, there were a lot of last-minute...
Which is very odd.
Outrageous.
What's it got to do with them?
Well, I think there were a lot of conditions that obviously the Canadians were never going to stomach inserted at the last minute, as though they deliberately wanted to scupper the trade talks. And just when you think Donald Trump is busy somewhere in the world, he suddenly turns his attention back to Canada. His poll ratings are really, really poor at the moment. Approval ratings are a sort of new low, I think. Midterms coming up for him in November, and just started another punch up with the Canadians. And
the nice Canadians.
Yeah.
I know. It's a very odd thing for him to do. And I was also reading today that America, although it keeps saying, oh, we don't need the Strait of Hormuz, we don't need Canada, we don't need anybody else, they've got 41 days of crude oil left. They are desperately low now on fuel reserves, and a lot of people are suspecting this is when he'll call a national emergency and shut down the elections.
Well, it wouldn't be beyond possibilities, would it? And he does need something to turn around, because it's crazy, really, because everybody knows, the Canadians and the Americans know, that they're both better served their economies when they're trading freely between each other. Tariffs hurt both of them, particularly the car industry in Canada. And the Canadians feel as though Donald Trump actually wants to close down vast parts of their economy and persuade them somehow to move themselves to America. So it seems very counterproductive.
Trust the American market.
Yeah.
How would you trust America right now? Of course you're going to try and get markets elsewhere. I mean, it's absolutely nuts. Yeah, well, Canada is the second largest US trading partner after Mexico.
Yeah, and he's writing in capitals on his Truth Social in capital letters. We don't need Canada, they need us, exclamation mark. Well...
Unless they switch off the electricity and water that fuels America, then we'll soon find out. Right, quick break, and Vincent and I'll be back in just a moment.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you, and with me, Vincent Moss, a former political editor. Going with the Metro now. Time to halt the hell rides. And I was reading today, it was from the guy from the RAC, talking about, look, driving the wrong way down roads is not an unusual thing to happen, but increasingly people are doing it for fun, for the risk factor. And I can't help thinking, you know, that you're doing the right thing. You're driving down a dual carriageway or a motorway, just going about your business, and suddenly the shock of seeing a car coming the other direction and you are wiped out doing nothing wrong. This has got to be taken much more seriously, I think. This guy was saying that in a few of those cases, it's old people who get confused. But he said increasingly it's people turning round because they get stuck in a traffic jam and driving down the hard shoulder to get out of it, and hitting cars that have broken down. So there's a lot of bad behaviour going on. There's people doing it deliberately, there's people doing it because they just don't agree the laws apply to them. But it is a much bigger problem than we know.
Very much so, and I think some of the people doing it turn their lights off, because if you're trying to evade the police, as Graham Wetton, your former police officer, was saying earlier, one of the things they have to make an assessment on if the police are pursuing a car is whether it's safe or not. Now, you can very quickly potentially stop a police pursuit, because if you go the wrong way down a road, the police may well decide, make an evaluation not to follow you. So one of the reasons, if you're being pursued by the police, go the wrong way down the road, maybe that stops the police following you. And that's another thing they do is, as I say, turn the lights off, makes it hugely dangerous. Imagine driving safely along that road and you're confronted by a car doing 70 miles an hour in the wrong direction, potentially with its lights off. Must be horrendous. It
must be absolutely terrifying, and absolutely just because they're mucking about. And in fact, the police car that was hit with PC Matthew Blades and PC Tom Clough dying were not part of the pursuit at all. They were just police officers on the road. And because the other cops had decided to stop chasing them because they went on, drove the wrong way, and these police officers just happened to be there. Because I originally thought they must have been part of the original chase, or at least they were aware of them, but no, they were like, it could have been anybody. No,
and we don't know for sure, as people have been saying, that they were filming this, but one of the people, at least in the car, had been filming these sort of videos that they were posting on social media platforms, and they may have been doing it again, and it is clearly a craze among certain communities to do that. And really, the social media platforms have got to do more to be removing that stuff and not waiting to be told or asked to remove it, but removing it as soon as they're aware it's there.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And these little scumbags who think it's just a game as well. Fine. The I-paper going with Council House boost, but at the top here, there's a crime feature here that says tech firms refuse to say if they will remove deadly videos, the ones that we've just been talking about there, Vincent. Wrong way driving craze causing fatal crashes. Facebook and TikTok say no comment. UK government demands they help to stop deaths.
Well, I imagine they don't want to get drawn into commenting too much on these things, because if you remove these videos, there'll be other videos, all sorts of crazes that youngsters get involved in, and of course that will hit their bottom line. So it's an area that they perhaps don't want to get drawn into, but they really should be, because it's pretty clear these videos are not acceptable and shouldn't be on social media platforms. Yeah, I just think that if they've proved they can't be police, we need to do it for them. So yeah, that's Housing Secretary says government will create a boom in social and council housing to cut number of families in temporary accommodation. And she said Rayner plans to build on green belts that she reclassifies as grey belt. And the cost of temporary accommodation is ruinous for councils. A boost for builders, although no help yet for UK's first-time buyers.
The Sun also going with war on deadly joyride videos. Andy Burnham yesterday declared war on joyride videos, slammed the truly reprehensible TikTok trend after we uncovered scores of clips showing youths goading the police into chases. The one good thing, though, is that there's been a lot of money raised for the families of these police officers that were killed.
Yeah, huge amount. I mean, last time I looked, it was over £500,000, and I'm sure it'll probably tick up towards £1 million.
I'm sure it will.
It just shows you that even out of the most horrible of circumstances, there are still people out there that recognise what an awful situation the families are in, and are trying to help them at this incredibly difficult time for them. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that Tom Clough, PC Tom Clough, is an Iraq war vet as well. So the public are stepping up and helping them out just to get them over that. Nothing will replace the men, of course, but some money would help. This story as well, this is the only paper that's picked up on this for the front page. Big story as far as I'm concerned. This is on the Daily Star. Snooker legend, a child sex abuser. This is the former world snooker champion Graham Dott, who I must admit I have never heard of, has been found guilty of sexually abusing a boy and a girl who were both, get this, at primary school. Dott's victims, a primary school boy and a girl. So he's been found guilty.
Yeah, terrible story. I must say, he's not a name familiar to me either, but it's the main story on the Star, and yeah, terrible story.
They're everywhere, aren't they, these sex abusers? Yeah. They're just in every walk of life. You've just got to really be very, very careful with your children these days. It's terrible. It's such a shame that there are these predatory scumbags all around, everywhere. You know, snooker legend. Again, legend's probably stretching it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe we're just not in that world, really. And maternity crisis. This is an odd line. Pregnant women are being taught how to give birth in a car after a maternity ward shut. North Devon District Hospital temporarily closed the wing due to staff shortages, leaving patients nearly a 2-hour journey to Exeter. The crisis is so bad, people are being given classes and having their baby on a motorway hard shoulder.
Well, I guess it makes sense to give people contingency plans if they can't get to the hospital in time, but it does sound an awfully long way to have to go, 2 hours.
If you're in labour.
Yes, exactly, and if that's the position they're in, then that is a real problem, and it's probably wise to have a plan B. But it's just the latest thing with maternity care. It just seems to be in a terrible state at the moment. There's been a lot of Nottingham and other places, I think, where there have been real problems with this, and it just seems to be the latest in a sort of series of problems about maternity care in this country, which seems to be really underfunded. I mean, there've been talk about improving various parts of the health service and waiting lists coming down a little bit with a increased investment under this government, but maternity care still seems to have big problems, judging by this story in the Mirror.
Yeah, terrible. I mean, and you imagine being the driver of that car as well, the panic and the worry, and it's got disaster written all over it. So that's the front pages. Have you found anything from today that you thought was...
Yeah, I thought it was quite interesting, a story in the Daily Mail about cyclists killing, can you believe this number? Cyclists kill or severely injure a record 234 pedestrians. And the Mail says reckless cyclists killed or injured a record number of people, a record number of pedestrians. The figures are shocking. These are Department of Transport statistics showing 70 pedestrians were struck at zebra crossings. So this is cyclists who are clearly going through zebra crossings, which I'm sure even cyclists would admit is something that happens. And a big factor in this, according to Donna Jones, who's a police and crime commissioner for Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, is these silent e-bikes.
Oh, yeah.
I had one the other day coming up the wrong way up a one-way street, and of course you don't think there's anything coming and you don't hear it coming.
No.
So they're a real threat, and it just looks as though these figures are getting worse and worse, and perhaps it's time that cyclists had to follow some of the same rules as drivers
Absolutely,
follow.
but you know what? Whenever I do a phone-in on that, people just go, yeah, but cars are worse. You go, yeah, but that doesn't make it okay. It does not make it okay for cyclists to kill people, because cars also do in greater numbers, because they shouldn't be doing that. And I certainly know there was a dog walker around by me who got, I mean, so badly injured by being hit by a bike on the pavement that she never recovered, and then she died, and they didn't put it down to, but she had a heart condition anyway. But I know that had she not been injured in this way, that she wouldn't have, the rest of the knock-on effect wouldn't have happened.
And there's so many now cycling on the pavements, just as a matter of course.
Yeah.
So it is really dangerous, and cars may have many things that cause problems, but they're certainly not on the pavements.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things, and you will always have cyclists say, look, I don't cycle like that. And they're the ones who ring in, I suspect, not the ones who are going through the red lights and the zebra crossings.
Yeah, but it is definitely something that again, requires a much more stringent law, like social media. Vincent, thank you very much indeed. It's been fabulous to see you. Vincent Moss there, former political editor. Let me just remind you of some of the front pages. The Mirror there, talking about a maternity crisis and mothers being taught to give birth in cars on their way to another hospital. Another medical story here. Record 1 in 7 of us are on antidepressants as the pill use rockets. Ex-world champion guilty, snooker legend, a child sex abuser of children at a primary school. One of the main stories on a couple of the papers is war on deadly joyride videos. That's in the Sun and the Metro. Time to halt the hell rides. And council house boost. Rayner reveals a plan for 70,000 homes to tackle the homeless crisis. No other details, though, involved with that. So those are some of the front pages. I'm sure that JK will be following those closely on The Breakfast Show.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and a good morning to you. This is Talk Back, and I'm Petrie. And this morning what we're discussing is Harry and Meghan's security and should we be paying for it. The former Home Secretary, Lord David Blunkett, said on Sunday night, says that they should be allowed temporary security as their relocation to the UK takes shape. He said it could be upgraded or downgraded over time, depending on the perceived level of threat. Such a middle ground arrangement would involve 1 or 2 protection officers travelling with Harry, and were perfectly reasonable to offer this on a temporary basis. His comments came over the row whether taxpayers should fund the couple's security arrangements, which could cost $5 million a year. So Emily Thornberry said Harry, 41, Meghan, 45, and their children deserve to be safe, while a Labour peer said they should pay for it themselves. So there are 3 types of security. There's a full-blown, blacked-out backup car, 2 or 3 close protection. That's 9 people a day on a rotation, 1 in the passenger every day of the week, every day of the month, and every day of the year, 1 in the passenger car and others in the backup on a 24-hour-a-day basis. What do they need the security for? Where are they going? What are they doing that requires this security? Just popping out to the shops, going to dinner with friends, because they're not working. They won't be working for us anyway. They won't be doing any royal duties. There's no plan for them to return to what they wanted, which was to be private citizens plus. They wanted to be, part royal, part private citizen, so they could jump in and out. Well, that was denied to them by the Queen and then the King. And apparently that's not going to change, so they won't be working royals. In the meantime, they've been in America earning hundreds of millions of dollars, right? I think the spare book earned William just north of 90 million, right? That's enough for me to live on for a while. I wouldn't be asking you to pay for my security. Then there was the Netflix deal, 200 million. Then there was a Spotify deal, which I think was 50 million. And then I don't know what she got for her jam or whatever else stuff that they've been doing. And he's also getting paid, don't forget, by some tech company or some aircraft company, some company as well, as an advisor. So he's also pulling a salary from that. All of those millions, hundreds of millions, and they didn't pay any tax in the UK because they didn't earn it in the UK, right? Fair enough. So they've contributed absolutely big fat zero in terms of tax to this country. And yet they want us to pay for their security. And it's not like the government's, it's our money. It's you and me paying for this. So I just don't, here we go. Since stepping back as working royals in 2020, Harry and Meghan have generated an estimated gross income of over 135 million to 150 million from their various high-profile commercial contracts in the United States. That's got to be per year because they got 200 million from Netflix alone, and then Spotify 50 million. So that's 250 million alone. So, yeah, pay tax, volunteer to pay. I don't know. Anyway, they want us to pay, and I don't think I want to pay. In fact, I'm fairly sure I don't want to pay. I think if you're that rich and you can make that sort of money and your dad is richer than God, then you can probably afford to pay for your own security. The problem is that they don't want private security. They want the British police security. They want the creme de la creme, the top of the tree. And I understand that. That's what they want. They want the intelligence that only the British police will have, and they want the guns that only the British police are allowed to carry. But stamping your feet and saying, I want, doesn't mean you should get, right? And I think these two are particularly spoiled, and now they want the people that they slagged off I mean, don't forget the stuff they said about us as a country when they left, when they stomped off in their fit of pique and refused to do any work for the royal family because she thought she should be paid for going to open a shopping mall or whatever it was she had to do, I can't remember. But she thought she should get a salary. On top of the fact we paid for that wedding, right? Millions of pounds for that wedding. We paid for that because we liked her at that point. We paid for all of that. And then they stormed off, called us names, had a go at the Queen and the royal family, and said they want nothing to do with us. And now they want to come back. I haven't seen any apology. I haven't seen any tail between the legs. I haven't seen any, we were wrong, really fancy a bit of, would you mind if we... None of that. No contrition at all. Just, we're coming back, pay for our security. I'm a bit fed up with them, to be honest with you. I mean, not that I'd want anything to happen to them, and I wouldn't, because I'm not vicious, but... oh, yeah, here we go. The royal wedding cost an estimated 30 to 31.5 million. That's a few years' security right there. We bought that for them. We paid for that. And what thanks did we get? Nothing. In fact, we got called names. I'm sick of them. Anyway, Roy is in Hampshire. Hello, Roy. Am I being naive?
No, not really, lovey. I understand your feelings, but I think they've got to have security because Harry is a marked man. I mean, he was a silly boy. He told the world...
He marked himself, didn't he?
No, yeah. He told the world that he slotted 24 Afghans.
Yeah.
You know, which he shouldn't have done. No soldier ever.
No soldier. No, they never do.
No. You know, when people found out, you know, I was ex-military or... that's one of the questions I ask you. I used to say we used to throw snowballs at each other and that was it.
Yeah, you ask a soldier how many people they've killed and they won't tell you. So why write it in a book? He's an idiot.
No, the only time it's ever brought out is somebody has given a VC or something and then it's on the citation.
Yeah.
You know, what they've done. And, you know, but
it doesn't count. It doesn't count bodies. It'll just say that they, you know, rescued somebody, you know, during a battle.
Done some, yeah, or taken out a bunker or whatever they've done. Yeah. But the only thing is, lovey, if you go back a few years to when his mum died, she wasn't very popular until she died. She, you know, she was a right so and so. With, you know, she was going out with an Arab. Before that, you know, she was seen with various other people. One was the rugby captain. You know, she was seen with him quite a lot. You know,
there was a surgeon as well, wasn't there? There was a heart surgeon as well. Yeah, but I mean, I think she was loved by the public, and I get that Harry, you know, hates the press. I'm not sure the press are going to be really that interested in them after he's tried to break the Daily Mail and failed. And I'm not sure we're as interested as we once were, you know?
No, I'm not. But the thing is, lovey, this country, it's not the same as it was 20 years ago. I mean, you must find it. I bet you don't go out walking after dark, walking down the streets. You did years ago. You felt safe, but not today. You know, it's not a safe country. With all these people we've got coming in the country, we don't know who they are, what they are, and somebody would take him out for the sheer hell of it. You know.
Yeah, but that somebody could take anybody out for the sheer hell of it. And if we're going to be spending this sort of money on protecting a family of 4 when we're not protecting other people in this country with basic policing, you know, we've got all these prisoners being released and the police are saying we can't possibly keep an eye on them all. And yet we're going to devote $5 million a year to this family.
Yeah, we don't even know what type of residence that they bought. You know, is it a place that is fairly secure?
Exactly.
I mean, there's 1 or 2 places in Basingstoke, very big estates. And I know one, it was called the Camrose because I think it was Lord Camrose. He owned half of Basingstoke years ago. and he had a big estate. When I used to drive taxis, I was always in and out there picking people up. But a very wealthy Arab wanted to buy it, and the police said no, he shouldn't buy it because people could take a shot at him. He could be seen from, various vantage points around the estate, so he didn't buy it. So
well, hopefully they've taken advice. I mean, it does seem that this was a bit of a knee-jerk move. I don't know how long it had been planned, but certainly about a year ago, Harry was saying, I can't foresee a future where I would bring my family back to Britain.
Yeah, but as I said, I was talking to Ash the other night, and I think it's because of his drug business. I think he's going to be kicked out of America.
Oh, you mean his visa app? Yeah, his visa application.
I think that's one of the reasons he's come back. That's
a very good point, actually. I'd forgotten about that because he doesn't like Trump and Trump does not like him. So if it was ever revealed that he lied on his visa application, then that would be withdrawn. I think that's a good point. So they're not back here because they want to be. They're not back here because they've come back to get on with the royal family or, let King Charles see his grandchildren. Everything about this couple is just selfish.
Well, I watched the wedding with my daughter, and I said to her when they're driving down there in Windsor, I said that's all going to end in tears, and it has. I don't understand the girl. She had everything she could possibly want.
I thought she was going to be amazing. I thought we've got a really bright, beautiful woman who can speak for other women, who will be a powerful voice, because Catherine can't because she's going to be queen, right? But Meghan could have done. She could have done so much good.
Yeah, she could have done.
And then she just turned against us or said that we were all racist, which I am fundamentally furious about.
Yeah.
And I will not forgive her for even suggesting that.
Can I ask you something else, Petra?
You could ask me anything you like. Whether I answer it or not is a completely different point.
Do you think we should bring back the Birch in prison?
No.
Well, not for what these kids have done. I mean, there's no deterrent now. If you're sent to prison, I mean, look at that guy that killed those 3 children. He's now down at Broadmoor. There's no punishment in prison anymore.
No, well, because we determined that we wouldn't continue down that road of, the punishment is prison.
Yeah,
that's what it's meant to be. Is removal of your liberty.
Yeah, my dad's brother, Uncle Ed, he was in the army out in India just before the First World War, and he got an eye infection, which meant he had to wear glasses. So they kicked him out of the army. In those days, you couldn't wear glasses in the army. And he went into the prison service, and he reached the highest rank you could get in the prison service. He was chief medical officer.
Wow.
He was down at Dartmoor, and a prisoner hit him over the head with a prison stool. And that prisoner was given the cat o' nine tails.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, there used to be the cane at school, didn't there?
Oh, I had the cane 2 or 3 times, lovey.
Did it help?
No. Well, the teachers that taught me, I think they'd all been in the army. They'd all been in the forces. I mean, one of the things you learned when you went in the gate and you all had to line up in your different classes, if you talk, they'd come up and they'd grab your hair, pull your head down and smack you over the back of the head, and you'd see stars. And then they had in the old days, we had the blackboard, and you had the blackboard compass. And they used to whack you on the backside with that. In fact, one guy, he used to put a chalk mark on it, and if that chalk mark didn't come out on your backside, he used to do it again.
I remember my headmaster at primary school would chuck the chalkboard eraser.
Oh, yeah.
That was because that was solid wood. Yeah. Apart from that spongy bit on the top, which the spongy bit never hit you. It was always the solid wood that hit you if you were talking. But no, I don't think corporal punishment is the answer.
Yeah, but what else can you do with these kids? I mean, if you've read what's happened with these kids, what they've done, they go into people's houses, they get the car keys, they nick the car, and then they don't care what happens with it, and then it's just a laugh. They want to be chased by the police, and they go on the opposite side of the road so the police won't chase them anymore. And those poor 2 police officers, they've died.
Yeah, but the boys died as well. They won't be doing it again. I mean, that's the thing, is hopefully these kids learn that actually there's another bunch of kids that were killed in Ireland, wasn't there, as well? And I think it's another 5 of them in the cars. That this isn't fun. This isn't just for fun. But I don't know whether whipping boys would make any difference to them. It would just make them even more angry and more aggressive and more determined to do bad things.
Well, I don't know whether you know, but when they gave you the birch in prison, they did it over 3 days. And you got it the first day, the second day, the third day, you were screaming your head off because you knew what you were going to get.
Did it stop them from doing it again, or just make them do different things?
Who knows? But it's a deterrent. What else do you do with them?
Well, it didn't work as a deterrent in schools, though, did it?
No, I suppose not. No. But there you go. Boys will be boys.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. But I mean, I think that hopefully they're learning that just because they feel invincible at the age of 15, they're not.
It's either that. I mean, I was listening the other day, and a lady came on and said that they ought to bring back Borstal, because when I was at school, secondary school, quite a few of the kids in there, they were sent to Borstal.
They're like a boarding school, weren't they? Boarding school prison type place.
Yeah. And the discipline was very, very tough. And it did, once they were in there, they didn't want to go back again.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that there's definitely 100% a problem with discipline and these kids thinking they can get away with whatever they want to get away with. But I don't know what the answer is, because I think that won't stop it. I just don't.
But in your upbringing, I don't know what your mum and dad was. My dad told you once, and mum would tell you twice. Otherwise, you've got a wallop.
Oh yeah, no, my parents were not. My mum and dad weren't together when I was from the age of 4, anyway. But my stepfather was quite a violent man, so we were quite scared of him. My mother, we just avoided both sets of parents really most of the time.
I'd just come back from Malaya, and I'd been out with me mates, and I got back about 2:30 in the morning. And I'd put the key in the door. Mum's waiting behind the door with a rolling pin. Where the hell have you been at this time of night? You're up to no good. You've been with us, some damn girl, With
a rolling pin?
Yeah, and I'd just been out, fighting for my life out in Malaya. Getting shot at and God knows what else, yeah.
And she was the scariest thing, was she?
What, my old mum? Oh, blimey, yeah. She used to have a great big wooden spoon.
You'd rather be in Malaya facing the enemy?
Yeah, she was a right old character, my mum, yeah.
Well, she brought up a nice boy, so that's good. Roy, good to talk to you. I'm going to take a quick break, but I'll be back in a moment.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, this is Talk, and this is Talk Back with Petrie, and we're talking about Harry and Meghan Markle, and should they be afforded a taxpayer-funded security detail. So that's what we are discussing at the moment. And, you know, I was saying, well, his dad's quite rich. This is funny from John. He says, everyone keeps saying that Harry's dad could pay for his security. I did not know that James Hewitt was that well off. That's so naughty. That has been debunked, hasn't it, that they weren't together. I mean, I'll secret, I'll tell you now, but after his relationship with Princess Diana, but before it became public, I went out for dinner with James Hewitt. He asked me out for dinner. And I tell you, that is one hell of a story. Not my proudest moment to accept a dinner invitation, but what ensued, I can't tell you about it. I'll have to read it in a book one day. But yeah, interesting. Not a good man. But anyway, yeah, you know, all of that. Anyway, I'm not going to tell you any more details on that. But yeah, went out for dinner with him in Mönchengladbach at a restaurant called Mike's. That's as much detail as I'm going to give you. Sue says, notwithstanding the way they insulted his father's subjects here, there is no way we should pay for their security. The king is a very wealthy man and it's his son, so let him pay if they are so skint. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? They did insult the whole of Britain, really. I saw, anyway. I thought that they were quite insulting. Tracy's in Middlesbrough. Hello, Tracy.
Hiya.
Hiya, good morning. What do you think of this? Should we pay?
Can I just say there's a big cost of living crisis going on? There's people trying to get uniforms to go back to school with clothes banks, they call them now.
Yeah.
And they're using food banks. And then we've got these two, who multimillionaires or whatever they are, thinking we, as a country, should be paying their security.
Yeah.
What is all that about?
I agree. I think they're spoiled. I think they're brats. I really do.
You know, why don't they just put them with their uncle? Let's call him Andrew. Put him with him. And see if they like that.
No comment. But
I know no comment to me as well, but, you know, there's been so many scandals in the royal family that why should we have to put up with this as a country?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they just decided, seemingly on a whim, to come back to the UK, and it could very well, as Roy was saying, actually, I hadn't thought of that, it could very well be his visa issues.
How much did you say they had? 250 million?
Well, I know that they had a Netflix deal which was 200 million.
Which I didn't want.
And then over 5 years, and then they had a Spotify deal that was 50 million. Then
wow.
Harry's book made just north of, I think it's about 93 million or something.
Do you know I haven't even got 50 quid in the bank and we're talking these numbers?
I know, and that's the thing. And their lifestyle is very expensive. I think they've got 2 mortgages on the house in Montecito. It's 13. Yeah, I'm not joking. And I think it's 13 grand a month or something in mortgage. I don't know. But look,
I understand they don't live with the king.
Yeah, just you know, yeah. There's plenty of secure properties.
They'd have security, wouldn't it? Like,
yeah.
Move them in there, or what's up with that? Couldn't live with your dad.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely sure what they want or need this security for. I mean, if it's to secure their new home, private security can do that, right? You can have.
Disgusting, me.
Yeah, private security can do that. And why do they need police security if they're just going shopping or because they're not going to be working as royals? They're not going to be doing anything for us.
Have they ever worked apart from Meghan?
Good question. Oh, no, Harry was in the military. So he did work then.
Yeah, God bless him.
Yeah, he did work there. I think that's fair to say. But also, it's like you
I feel a bit sorry for the kids, me.
Yeah, because they've done nothing right. They're just.
I mean, yeah, they don't know what's going on. So they're like, first of all, they're in a big hot American country, and then they come back to call England. They don't know what's going on.
To go to school at some posh.
Yeah, to go to school in a taxi.
Yeah. I mean, with security, I don't know. I mean, we won't get to see them either, and I don't really care to see them. I don't really care.
No,
I'm not interested in Harry.
Out, like, you know, the Queen's Jubilee and all that. I loved all that. I loved the Queen, but now the royal family are just a joke.
Yeah,
just a joke.
Yeah. I just think, you know, that if you decide you're not going to be royal, right? Harry said he didn't want to be part of the firm. You can't be half in and half out. The Queen said you can't be half in and half out. You're either all in.
I love the Queen, you know, and I think she'll be turning in the grave because, you know, since she's gone, this country's gone to pot. Yeah,
she was holding it all together, bless her.
I know.
But also Meghan taking the mick out of curtsying to the Queen. I mean, it was embarrassing.
Not only that, taking the mick out of England.
Yeah.
Like, well, you know, there might be a few things going on at the border now, but we were never racist against Meghan.
Never.
We absolutely liked her.
Yeah.
You know, she was an actress. She was beautiful. That's why he married her. Or she married him because he was a prince. I don't know which is the other way or both ways. But yeah, like
she was beautiful. She was smart. Yeah. She was everything. I thought she was I genuinely thought she was a breath of fresh air.
I even watched the wedding.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Well, you paid for it, so you should have watched it.
Yeah, that's why I would have got 50 quid in the bank.
That's why, because you paid for the wedding, Tracy. You're very kind. 30 million.
But I think, you know, the beyond richness, can I say that? Like, they've got so much money. Like, what are they doing with all that money? Where is it?
Well, they certainly didn't pay it in British tax. So.
And they're going to pay tax here?
Well, I guess if they earn anything here, they'll have to, and she'll have to pay it in America as well if she wants to retain American. I presume she's got American citizenship. I don't know, because she's actually she's Canadian, isn't she? So I don't know what. I think she's Canadian, Meghan.
I don't know, but I know she was in a lot of films and like she was really well liked, and then she married the King's son, so she would have been.
But can you imagine, Tracy, if she goes back to acting?
Well,
if she has to act a sex scene or something in a Guy Ritchie film, or
haven't they just turned her down?
Well, there's some doubt about that. They think this is a bit of a publicity stunt by Ritchie, but also her people are saying that they are still talking to her. I don't know.
I think Guy Ritchie is brilliant.
Yeah, so do I.
Probably find someone else better, to be honest.
Of course they can find somebody better. I mean, she's not that good, but they can find somebody better. But somebody with such a profile, I don't know.
What films has she been in?
Well, she was in that Suits thing, wasn't she? She was good in that.
I never watched that.
No, she was good. I mean, she's an okay actress. I mean, she's okay. You know, I mean, she's okay. You know, she's not going to set the world on fire, but she's okay. She's no Dame Judy, right? She's not in that she's in nowhere near that calibre of most of the great Brits, but she's all right. She's all right, you know. Meghan Markle, I apologise, she is a US citizen. I thought that she was Canadian. Despite marrying Prince Harry in 2018 and originally planning to become a British citizen, she does not currently hold British citizenship. Oh.
Can I just say, I think she'd be good in EastEnders.
Do you know how much I'd love to see that? Or in Corrie.
Everyone would tune into that.
Oh, I'd definitely tune into that.
You know, the Christmas Day when they have the do.
Yeah.
It'd be better if she was in it for the Christmas thing.
Oh, that'd be great, wouldn't it?
Day. Everyone tuned into that.
Yeah, and get her out of my pub coming out of Meghan's mouth. Get her out of our pub. I would love that. And throwing the bust of Queen Victoria on the floor. That would be amazing.
Get the UK to do a poll, see if they want on the Christmas Day special of EastEnders.
I think you should be working for the BBC, Tracy. That's what I think. It's good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for that. So, no, basically, Tracy and I don't think they should get any taxpayer money for security, but we do feel sorry for the kids. Quick break, back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk. Oh.
Hello there. I'm just reading some of your messages here that have come in a flurry. Mohan says, petrified. Thank you, Mohan. Harry's mum and the late Queen left him loads of money too. That is true. Zarina says the same thing. Don't forget he inherited money from his grandfather, grandmother and mother. Greedy so-and-sos. Not quite the word she used, but I'm editing. And JK says the monarch doesn't pay inheritance tax, bunch of freeloaders. They expect us to pay everything for them. They don't even pay their fair share. Yeah, they only started paying income tax fairly recently, I believe. They opted to pay income tax. Zarina also says, your caller mentioned that our country was safe to walk out at night 20 years ago. I profoundly disagree. I've never felt safe. I've always felt safe, to be honest with you. Secondly, Harry's wife was an ordinary nobody before she met him. She was never used to this type of life, so why can't she be the voice of reason? I do not know. Harry is a petulant man. Harry has shown his true colours, what a spoilt and petulant man he is, just like his uncle. He's been fighting for security for too long. We can't give in. And more importantly, he and his awful wife have more money than I can ever imagine. They, like the rest of us, should pay their own bills. As for their wedding, I resented paying for that. He is a minor royal. They do not figure in the future of our country. Finally, all this talk of security is drawing attention to themselves. Anything to get the attention, I suppose. That's an excellent message, Serena. And I agree. Sadly, I do. And you know, he is a minor royal. I mean, he may be the king's son, but he's so far away from accession now to the throne. And he isn't part of the future. And actually, when we get to William and Kate, the royal family will be even smaller. So I just don't think that there is there's no... I mean, it's call him the heir and the spare. It's the heir and who's he, what's the point of him? Should have been a better title, really. But there you go. And I used to love Harry as well. I think he turned into a bit of a pillock. Carol is in Manchester. Hello, Carol.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm going to be half and half with it all. I'm going to change my mind probably over the last 12 months. Okay. And regarding, well, I'll just get to it, Harry and Meghan.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely fuming with them. Meghan, right, she is what she is. And we can all say of what she is. you know, like at the end of the day, you know, like with a first husband, a father, a family or whatever, she is what she is, and we can portray with whatever that is. Harry, I agree with you, a spoilt brat, and he thought that the grass was greener on the other side, and it didn't work. 6 years, he'd been out there, and it didn't work, you know, like, and sometimes...
I think they thought they were going to be showbiz royalty, but they upset too many people.
Well, I think with Harry, I've got to give it, with Harry, it might be different. It's like, and please, and everybody might shout at me, he's a spoilt brat, never been out of the circle, came out of the circle with Meghan. With Meghan, at the end of the day, you know, like, should we have a go at her or shouldn't we? Or whatever. Meghan came into the circle, his circle, thought that it could be this or it could be that or whatever. It weren't. She soon rushed out of it, you know, like. So it was like a circus between both of them, and it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing for Meghan for America or wherever she came from, and it was certainly embarrassing for my beautiful queen that I absolutely loved, Elizabeth, right, at the end of the day, and he was such a prat of doing what he did. You know, like, and maybe thinking he's the spare or whatever. You know, like, grow up, Harry. You know, like, grow up. You know, like, and maybe he might be growing up a bit. I mean, whatever the difference, we will not know in any way, and at least for about a year or two, why they came back. But the main thing that none of us have talked about, other than the other person, is it Tracy who spoke just a bit, you know, like with it, about the children. Those two children are in between all what we're gabbing about, all what we're talking about, everything, and it's not fair on them. It's really not fair on them. So if the king is happy to bring them back, he might have a plan. I don't know. You know, like...
Well, the king didn't know. The king, they announced they were coming back, and the palace didn't know.
I'll be honest, right? I'll be honest. I don't believe it. I honestly, truthfully, do not believe it. I really do not believe it. I think this has been going on for a little while. I've been watching Harry. I've been watching because I love anything to do with royalty. And I honestly, and I think they might have had a plan to a certain degree if he does come back. You know, like, you know what I mean? Like in families. And you have that in families.
I honestly, I don't believe that the palace did know. I genuinely don't. I mean, Harry saw his dad, a few months ago?
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, actually. And then to suddenly decide that they were going... And only a year ago, Harry was saying, I can't see a future where I would take my family back to,
well, a lot
to
of
the
that,
UK.
And I'll be honest, right, in families, you say that. In families, I've got a family, a massive family, where we're all fighting, arguing and whatever, and I hear that kind of stuff, that, oh, I won't do this, or I won't do that, or I won't, you know, like, and we have to give. What I'm saying is, don't get me wrong, I cannot stand these two. And I absolutely dislike Meghan more than anything, because all she had to do, if she didn't like the royalty, you know, like she didn't, which is hard, if she didn't like it or whatever, just go. Don't marry him. Go. You know, like, or whatever. It was an opportunity type of thing. That's my opinion, you know, like with it. And he was a person who probably, for whatever his reason is, don't get me wrong, I cannot do with Harry. He absolutely has showed us up. I'm a royal person. He has showed us up in in the most horrendous thing, because royalty to me is to do with Great Britain. It's the absolute blessing of our countries, you know, like, and it's worked for years and years and years, hundreds of years it's worked. And Harry, what he did, especially to his grandmother, is unforgivable. So that man, he's not a boy. Everybody keeps calling him a boy. That man, right, has a lot of work.
Well, and the other thing is, the irony is, of course, that nobody would have been the least bit interested in offering them any of these multi-million-pound deals had he not been a royal.
If he weren't a royal person,
no, he
wouldn't have had a penny. No. He would have had nothing. And
neither would she.
I agree with you, because now he's in. That's why they're coming back. Because nobody wants to know. Nobody wants to know. You know, like, and that's why he's coming back. And unfortunately, sometimes that's what happens in families. But it's up to now, the royal family, to sort these two people out. But the thing is, what I keep coming back to is these two children. These two children, right? Don't forget Meghan's family. Right, the father, they have no connection with. You know, like these two babies, these two children, with the grace of God, we have to. That's what we're about, Great Britain. You know,
the thing is about these children is that they are completely anonymous. We've never seen a picture of them.
Exactly, and that's the worst part of it. We have no connection with them. But they're irrelevant.
No, they're irrelevant. Harry and his bloodline are irrelevant to this country. They will never be part. The royal family is getting smaller and smaller. He is a minor royal now, and the children are even more minor. They're nowhere near the throne.
I know that. But as a country, as we are, the kind of people we are, I know we're angry with those two people. Right, but these two children still have a connection towards Great Britain, and we have to make sure that they are okay, because these two idiots, and they are idiots, there's something wrong with them. Really, there really is something wrong with them. But the two children, these are babies, these children. We look after other people's children in other countries. We need to look after these two kids, right, at the end of the day, because these two are idiots. And if it comes with that, with the grace of God, that it comes with, that at the end of the day, right, that King Charles, right, is trying to do his best to maybe look after his grandchildren.
Yeah, I look. I'm sure they're perfectly good parents. I'm sure they're devoted parents to those children. I am. I'm sure they are. I just think because they seem to have completely misjudged the entirety of the rest of their world doesn't mean that they're bad parents. And the images I've seen, they look lovely.
I'm not saying that, but if that's do you feel like that?
I think that they're totally irrelevant. Carol, I don't care if I never know what they look like. They're completely unimportant. I mean, the only royals that matter at this stage are the King and Queen and William and Catherine and their children. I mean, that's it. That's our royal family getting smaller and smaller and smaller. But I do take your point that it's the children we need to protect. But I don't think we care, do we? Do we? Oh, maybe you do. I know I don't. Quick break. Back in a sec.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and Talkback, and I'm Petrie. And Mohan has written back and says, so Petrie, your name came up as petrified by auto text. I'm sorry. Never apologise. I've been called Fide all my life. So I just thought it was just part of another nickname, Petrified. Of course I've been called that all my life. Of course I have. That and Petri dish. Why not? So I wasn't offended. There's nothing to apologise for, Mohan. But thank you for that message. Caroline says maybe Harry could get a job from the PM driving one of his buses around Manchester. Enjoying the show. Thank you. And this one from JK says, I don't understand why Harry and Meghan are hated so much. They haven't done anything wrong. Obviously, I don't know them, but they seem nice enough. I don't hate them. I just find them totally irrelevant. I honestly, I don't have big enough emotions towards them to hate them. I just can't be bothered with them. I just think, so what? They're totally irrelevant to this country as well. I wouldn't want anything bad to happen to them or their kin, but don't care, really. I mean, I wouldn't want anything to go wrong with them, but whatever. And then he goes on to say, I would get rid of the royal family, all of the royal family. They add nothing to this country. Millions of people are struggling, 3 million children in poverty, and we spend hundreds of millions every year. One of the richest families on the planet. It's ridiculous, yeah. Ronnie is in Kent. Hello, Ronnie. Good morning.
Hi, Percy. Good morning. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good. So really interesting is your last caller. About the kids. I'd refer to the kids with no faces, which is a bit odd.
Yeah, because we've never seen them, right?
No, I find that peculiar. But the other thing, I was thinking when they come back, excuse me, is that I think woe betide when Princess Anne gets her hands on them. Because, do you know what? Look at her kids. Look at, obviously, William and Catherine, but look at her kids. And I think Princess Anne is the backbone behind Charles, obviously, because he's very poorly.
Well, she stripped her kids of royal titles.
Yeah.
And she said they're not going to have royal titles. Doesn't need them. Don't need them.
And I also think Sophie and Edward are the same with their children. Now, there's those two showing off left, right and centre. And I just think woe betide, because I think if Charles is poorly, I think Anne sits in the background, does all her amazing duties, and she's tough as old boots, that one, and I wouldn't want to get on the wrong side.
I wouldn't want to. I love how she's portrayed in all these comedies as well as a really... they are hilarious. But she is the backbone, and she's a no-nonsense person, right?
Yeah.
And with her kids, was it Peter and Zara, isn't it?
Peter and Zara, yeah. And
no royal titles.
I know, and do you know what? And only until the other day on Facebook I saw that I didn't realise that Zara and Peter have got a half-sister from Captain Mark Phillips. Who knew that they've got another sister? And do you know what? I thought, what are they talking about? And I feel that family are really down to earth, being royals, but with those two showing off, coming back here, and I just think they're not going to get the reception they want. And
I don't think they are. There'll be people who turn out, won't there? Because there's people who always turn out. But yeah. I don't think they will either. I think that had they stayed and done their thing, they would be, still considered minor royals, right? Because they're not. He may be the king's son, Harry, but he's not in the line of succession.
We all loved him, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. And her.
And her. I enjoyed their wedding. But what's happened with this, the film she was meant to be in with Guy Ritchie?
The Gentleman. It's a series, isn't it?
I've never watched it.
The Gentleman movie. It's really good. Apparently, I mean, we don't know anything, but there was some talk of a backlash and that they'd pulled the offer. But as far as her people are concerned, they're still in talks. So we don't know the truth. But it would be embarrassing. How can she? Do you know what I mean?
She can't do that.
If she goes into a Guy Ritchie film of all genres,
The Cockney Barrel of Monkeys. Do you know, it doesn't bode well for their look. But
it'll be embarrassing to the royal family.
Yeah, and the other thing is, you know, then what's she going to do? We don't want to see her jam. We don't want to, you know, her pouncing around the kitchen. And, you know, she should be out either doing decent charity work or keeping her trap shut, the pair of them, and knuckling down and absolutely maybe looking after Charles, who's clearly not very well man, and maybe to make the most of his son that's been showing up and said some horrible things. And about Camilla, I know a lot of people don't, Camilla. I quite like her.
I like Camilla.
I think she's a good egg.
Yeah, I do too. And she works tirelessly in the background as well. She heads up a lot of charities. She does a lot of work. She does a lot of work. Like Princess Anne, hardest working royal. You don't hear her beefing on and bitching on about stuff at all, ever. Never explain, never complain.
Wouldn't it be nice to be a fly on the wall, though? I'd love to see Anne's face.
God, I'd love it.
I'd love to see it. But I think with people like Zara and even Eugenie and the other thing, but they can keep quiet. And, you know...
They're keeping very quiet at the moment, aren't they?
All of them do, don't they?
Yeah.
And
we don't even know where Fergie is. We haven't seen her, have we?
What, Lurgy? We don't know where Lurgy is.
We don't know where Fergie Lurgy is, no.
Somewhere. The old, I'm a ginger, but I will just say, you know, she's a vile ginger. She's up a ski slope or somewhere else, isn't she?
I don't know what she's doing. I mean, who knows? She's
sucking toes somewhere.
Sucking toes, maybe. I mean, she might be. She's probably staying with some rich friend somewhere, but we don't know. We haven't seen her. We haven't seen her since the whole Andrew moving thing, and Beatrice and Eugenie have been quiet as well, although one of them has just had another baby. But then again, who cares? Because these people are irrelevant to this country. They are not irrelevant to this country.
And, you know, everyone, you know, when you turn the telly on, everyone's going about them too. I think, well, we've got other things to talk about, haven't we? About boats, whatever. Let's not go down that road. But there is more important things.
There totally are more important things. And I was kind of reluctant to do, because I don't really care about these two, but I do care about taxpayers being burdened more heavily to take care of two people who couldn't give a hoot about us, right?
I know.
That's what I care about. I don't care about them.
Are you intrigued to find out where they're going to live? Because what's that got to be fenced in? They're going to be fenced in, security, that will go into millions. And if we've got to pay for that, I'd rather my money go to help here with, you know, single mums that are getting beaten up, whatever.
I agree.
They have my tax money, but not them two.
Not those two to pay for a luxury lifestyle to some spoiled brats who are quite capable of earning hundreds of millions of pounds and have done, and have spent it all. So it's not down to us to fund rich people's lifestyles, and they are. He is a minor royal. I know people say he isn't, but he is. He's not really in line to the throne. There's a couple ahead of him now. What is it? 5 ahead of him now. There's William and the 3 children. So he's fifth in line to the throne now. So I just think, well, so what?
And you know, why should we pay for him? And all that showing off, go to America, stay there. Then I was watching some of the Americans, half of them don't even know who he is.
No, they don't know who he is. They don't want him there. No, they're furious with them. They're bored of them.
We're lumbered back with them again at our expense. And, you know, what are they going to do? And quite frankly, no one cares. And imagine when they get off the plane, when they where were they? Where they all got booed. It was somewhere, wasn't it?
Oh, it was somewhere, yeah.
How embarrassing.
That was, I know, the whole thing is embarrassing. And listen, I don't wish them any harm. I wish them a happy, peaceful life. But keep your hands out of my pocket. That's what I'm going to say to them, Ronnie.
I'll tell you what, lovely to talk to you. And I'll tell you what as well, just let's hope they get an absolute telling off by Auntie Anne.